Hello everybody, this is the Retro Bear once again welcoming you to a new episode of Desert Island Games. Thank you very much indeed for tuning in to this very popular series released every Saturday morning, well, for the last 10 weeks or so, where I maroon a fellow YouTuber on my own desert island for nothing short of my own amusement with some of their favourite games, and we have a chat about gaming history. If you haven't heard this series before, there's plenty of episodes in the archive selection on the channel. Go down there and have a look, get an idea of what it's all about, because this is the format we follow. And as I mentioned, it's a YouTuber, well known. We put them on a desert island with 6 games that they've selected at their own choice, whether they're their favourite games or games that are applicable to being stuck on a desert island. And we also ask them on top of that to take one extra game, which we call a second chance game, or to give an opportunity to play again. And also a game that perhaps at some point in their lives they've never really got on with, so much so that they absolutely hate the game and they never want to see it again. But because it's a desert island, we've made sure that they've got a copy of it them just to make sure. All along the way, we talk about gaming history and a little bit about the YouTube channel as well. Now, my guest this week, well, literally this man gets everywhere. I don't know how he manages to do it and keep up with the comments and finding new channels. And I've made reference to if he should change his gaming channel name to an international version, because he's everywhere. He really is. But he's one of the nicest guys you can come across on YouTube, really passionate about his gaming and other things as well. It's always important to have a bit of variety if you're got a YouTube channel and other interests as well. I'm very pleased to welcome on the Desert Island Games this week, Geordie Slasher Gaming, otherwise known as Mark. Hello, my friend. How are you?
Hello. Is Russ okay, or do we call you the Majesty? I'm not too sure.
Sir will be fine. I can go with that. Sir,
I'm happy with that.
However you want to do it. Yes, me too. Yeah. But no, it's great to have you on. As a couple of people have had on this, when we started doing this last year and we didn't get around to finishing it off, you were very keen to get on, and finally we've managed to nail it. So yeah, really pleased to have you here.
Oh, it's great. It's great to be here. It's I've listened to all the other guys, and it's just always a really good listen. And I wanted to jump in on the action as such. And well, sorry, and like obviously, just speaking to you in the comments, I've always just wanted to have a proper chat with you. It's not the same in the comments, is it? To actually speak to someone properly.
We've committed yourself for the long cause here, because if we don't get on, it's going to be a very, very long evening. But no, that's nice to know, and I like it. I've always thought the same as well. I've always thought it is somebody, and you get a feeling about people. It's somebody I could probably sit down and easily chat 2 or 3 hours away just about different subjects. Not just gaming. We start with gaming, we probably end up on something else, like football or wrestling. That's the other thing we sort of connected with into the old American wrestling. So that's quite a big interest between us, isn't it?
Yeah, we're just not football at the minute, obviously, as a Newcastle fan, please.
We'll avoid that. We'll try and keep clear of that one, yeah. Mind you, could be a Sunderland fan, I suppose. That'd be worse, wouldn't it?
Well, the missus is, isn't she? So.
Oh, is she? Oh,
yeah. God. Wait, when I first met her, we met in a nightclub and we started talking, and she says, "Oh, I've got tickets for Newcastle Arsenal tomorrow." So I thought, well, she's obviously a Newcastle fan. She just won them at work. She actually supports Sunderland. She kept it quiet for the first 2 months.
Well, that's because Mrs. Bear doesn't really enjoy football, so we don't have fallings out about different teams like that. So that's fine. In fact, pretty much every team she has fallings out about it while we're watching this thing. But now she'll watch the international stuff, but just not the Premier League and things. So now that's started again. Here we go. Right then, mate. So anybody who's not familiar with your channel. And again, I can't say how they cannot be familiar with your channel, because I used to get a bit of reputation when I started YouTube of leaving comments on lots of videos, purely just to get my interest out there and name out there. But you seem to have taken on that mantle now. Whereas everybody I go to, I think I found a new channel. You've been there already. Somebody I've come across before, and I thought, or just watched a couple of times. I look in the comments. Most of the time, you've already been there and left a comment. In some cases, minutes beforehand. Anybody who hasn't seen your YouTube channel, just give everybody a brief overview of what you do over there.
Basically, I'm just a daft Geordie waffling on, talking about like pickups and showing that I'm missing manuals for Mega Drive games, collection videos. I just do the standard videos that everyone does, but just try to put my spin on it with a bit of humor. I'm not the most knowledgeable person, so I try to add a bit of humor in it as well, just to get us through the video. To be honest,
I think we're all like that. To be honest with you, it's keeping it, keep your personality comes through, and I think that's what comes through a great deal about yours. Is you are this really fun guy who just loves the gaming side of things. You don't have to be fully knowledgeable. I mean, we're not trying to educate people here. I've never been that sort of person anyway. I've been much more inclined to talk about my experiences and the interests that come with it, rather than give people a potted history. Because you want that, there are other channels that will do that far better than me.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you had a few problems, didn't your channel get hacked at one point as well?
So it wasn't my channel. My email account got hacked into, and obviously I had the same password for everything. And because of my job, I was going away within a couple of weeks, and I just got that worried people were going to get into things and do things while I was away, because I can't do anything about it while I'm away. So I just deleted everything, all the Facebook, the YouTube, the lot, just because I was going away, and I was just scared something was going to happen while I wasn't there. Yeah,
because I remember when you got quite a following pretty quickly, and then you just disappeared, and we thought, I thought that's a real shame that you know everybody was picking up on your channel, giving you shout outs and giving you some traction and getting you into the community, and then all of a sudden you disappeared. But then to have that happen and then come back and more or less start from scratch again, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a brand new channel. I started in January.
And to gain that following back and more from there, it's really good, and it goes to show that people who watched your stuff before and remembered it, and you've attracted a lot of other people in as well. So I don't know. I lost a lot of my videos. I had a computer crash about 18 months ago, and sort of like the first 12, 18 months of stuff I did pretty much until probably just before lockdown last year. Probably February, March of last year. Everything before that went, which was really devastating, but also a start warning to make sure that you back your stuff up. And so I mean, it didn't affect me. I just have to start again, but all that stuff's now gone. Although it's still on my channel, it's disappeared. But to have something like that happen, we have to sort of start again. That must have been pretty. I don't know. Was that a good thing or a bad thing? That's probably a bad thing, I guess.
I don't look at it as a bad thing, because I thought to myself, okay, that first 2-3 months of the first channel, I'm just going to look at that as that was me learning what to do, and then hopefully when I come back, start afresh. I've remembered a few things that I did on the last time, because the first video I ever did, a pickups one, I didn't even know you had to reverse the screen, so I'm showing all the games with the writing backwards and stuff like that. And with the first time I did it, last October, I was a lot more serious, I suppose. This time now when I make a video, I'm pretend I'm just you're in the room and I'm talking to you and we're having a laugh as two mates. That's how I try to make my videos. I don't want them serious. I just want friendly banter with them.
That's the best way, and that's good advice for anybody starting out. It is daunting when you sit down and talking to a camera, when you actually realise there's nobody else there. But if you imagine the camera as somebody else, or you got somebody else on the other side of it, that helps a great deal, and it comes quite naturally. And a lot of people I've spoken to had a great fear of doing it, really do enjoy it. And our good friend Gernaldinho stays behind the camera, but he does it so well that he's not doing that he's doing that because he doesn't want to be on camera, but he doesn't need to be on camera because he's so good at what he does.
His personality, even though you can just see his hands, his personality is still coming across just as much as someone on screen for me. There's a few people like that I watch. You don't have to see the face to get what their personality.
That's right. It just comes across in the videos, and I suppose really, as you said, those early videos, you're learning how to do it. It's probably a good way that you've got the decent stuff on there, because a lot of us still got our old videos on. I've seen some of my old videos. I'm like, well, good grief, and I thought they were good.
I was watching a couple of months back. It just kept popping up your Predator one on the Amstrad or the C64. I watched that a couple of months ago.
That crops up everywhere. That I didn't. Somebody commented on that the other day as well. Just seems to appear on random recommendations, and that was when I first started. I mean, that was 10 years ago. That was when I first did some gameplay. I did it for about a month and then stopped for 7 years. But that was really a long time ago. But people still comment on that one. But I think it's like 4,000 views or something. Nothing.
Yeah,
major.
there was quite a lot of views.
Yeah. Well, for 10 years worth, it's not on a huge amount, really. But there we go. It's not all about the views, is it? It's about what you're putting out there. Right then, mate. So, as always with everybody, link in the description below to Mark's channel if you've not come across him before. At the time, his most recent video, which he'll be putting out. Do go across if you've not heard him or seen any of his stuff. Like I said, not just gaming. There are other interests Mark has as well, and you'll see all that in the background. Tremendous games room as well. One of the great things about Mark's videos, he sits in front of an awful lot of quality stuff, I have to say, compared to the stuff that I sit in front of. It's a completely different world apart. Some great, I can see figures and posters and all sorts there as well, and a really nice Master System collection to your right hand shoulder as well.
I've just started collecting that really in the last year. I was always a Nintendo kid, so I'm just until you start collecting for Master System, if you've never been there, you don't realize how good the ports and versions are of some of the games. You know, they look absolutely fantastic. The likes of Rainbow Island and New Zealand Story. It's like it's just worlds apart from what you're getting on the Nintendo.
That's right. I was going to start collecting for it last year just before lockdown. Then lockdown happened, and I sort of put my Master System collecting on hold until then. But I've started again recently, and yeah, it is a great system with some fantastic conversions. And I've always said about the Master System is if I'd had one at the time, I'd have absolutely loved it. And I love it now because, as you said, some of the conversions and the ports are way better than the NES ones, and in some cases a lot better than the 8-bit micros as a comparison. So, I mean, New Zealand Story on the Master System looks wonderful. I haven't got it yet. Yeah. It looks wonderful. Love that game.
What lets the Master System down for me is obviously Nintendo had that monopoly, didn't they, in the 80s and early 90s, where they wouldn't let other publishers like Capcom and Konami go on to the Master System. So it does lack a lot of your Castlevanias and your Contras and stuff like that.
I would imagine if that stuff had gone onto the Master System, though. Oh, I think Nintendo are onto a good thing, because if the quality of the other arcade ports are on the system or anything to go by, if anything like Contra or Castlevania made its way onto the Master System, it might have finished the NES off. So
yeah,
you never know.
But the best thing about that, though, you look at the games. So you know, now if a game on the Xbox and the PlayStation 4, it's basically the same game, isn't it? But then you look at Ninja Gaiden and Shadow Warriors on the Master System and NES, they're two completely different games. And then you go to the 16-bit with Aladdin's and stuff like that. You don't get that anymore. You know, the different ports and versions.
No, you don't. And for quite some time as well. It seems to be. I mean, there was some lazy porting going on back in the olden days. If you guaranteed that the ST and the Amiga would have a lot of poor ST straight ports, and the same with the Amstrad would probably get a lot of Spectrum ports rather than trying to do something with it. But you know, nowadays you don't see that. It's the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One are probably very similar if they've got the same title out for it. But as you said, some games, NES and Master System are completely different. But even on saying, you know, Sonic on the Master System is completely different to Sonic on the Mega Drive. So yeah, one of them. Right then, mate. So we get on with your gaming history and get things rolling. As time is moving on, and we do like to try and keep these beyond the, you know, less than a couple of days if we can help it. What's been going on so far? Now, so we've got. I think there's certainly a couple of systems on here we've not really covered in great deal before, and going through your games list as well, which we'll get to shortly. There's quite a few games we haven't even spoken about on Desert Island Games, which is really good, because I always like to try and find people who've got games that are on that list. It's not a prerequisite to come on and say don't pick games other people have had, because even if you did, you've got your spin on it. but there are some here we haven't talked about. Let's kick off your gaming history back in the old 8-bit micro days, and your first system that you sort of got your. Was this a system, I suppose, that got you rolling into being a games fan?
So this is way back, so it is all very fuzzy, for the first couple of years. But I was quite lucky. I'm in a different position to most people our age, because my dad is what we are now. He was massive into games from as early as I can remember, and not many dads were like that in the 80s. So I've always had my dad with his computer, and he's always picked out the good ones for me and games for me from a young age. So I remember him having a Specky when I was really, really young. And then he got me the Amstrad. Had the monitor. I always get the numbers mixed up. CPC 646 or 464.
464.
That's it. I always get them the wrong way around.
The 646 was the one they cancelled.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. It was made out of cheese. It wasn't going to work. So.
Wait. So I had the monitor with it, and it was like 3 different shades of green.
Yes.
So that was my first ever computer that my dad had bought for us. Now I remember playing on it, but I can't really remember the games too much because I was like 5, I think, at the time, and I'm getting on a bit now, so I forgot it. My lasting memory with it is my mum and dad split up when I was quite young. Right. So my dad would walk to my mum's, like the 2 miles to my mum's on a Saturday or Friday night to pick her up, and he'd put that Amstrad in a big green black bag. And then would walk to the bus stop, and then I'd go to my dad's for the weekend, and he would have his Atari ST set up, and I'd set that up next to him. And I just remember, sitting with my dad after going on the bus where he's carrying this big monitor.
They weren't small, those were they?
No, it was huge.
Goodness
2 black
me.
bags. You had to double bag it. And then Sunday, you had to do the whole thing, but coming back the other way. That's like my lasting memory of the Amstrad, my dad carrying it around with blood dripping off his shoulder.
But they were great units, those monitors. I remember seeing them in the shops at the time, The
only game I can remember is Back to the Future, the really bad one, where you start off with a skateboard and you're collecting clocks for the time.
That was the NES one, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm sure it was on the Amstrad as well. Wasn't it?
The same? Was it? I never played the original. I know there was a Back to the Future game. I know the NES one is the one that's probably more infamous than any of the other ones.
It had the photo that was disappearing. I remember that, and I'm sure I was on a skateboard, and that's all I can remember.
I could be wrong because I've not played it, but so the only one I remember is the NES one, which has got that sort of skateboarding clock thing in it as well. They'd never had a good back. I suppose depends where you sit on the Telltale one that came out years later. But I mean, Back to the Future 2 was terrible on the Amiga because I had that, and Back to the Future 3 is rock solidly difficult due to that stupid first level where you got to ride along on the horse.
Yeah. Have you played the Master System Back to the Future 2? No,
I haven't.
I can't get past off the first level.
Is it where you've got a hoverboard around the? Yeah. I think it's probably the same version as the Amiga one because I didn't like that at all. I had a demo of that. I thought, and they gave that away in one of the Christmas packs. I think it was. I think you got Days of Thunder, that, and Nightbreed. I don't know.
If I'd gotten that for Christmas, that's when I would have stopped leaving Santa Claus. It's that bad.
I had the same conversation with somebody else a few episodes back. I said that is a terrible selection of games to get as a packing. It really, really was. Played all of them individually as well. Terrible packing. So you can't remember much about the games that you had on the Amstrad, or you would have played on the Amstrad?
Not really. I had Rampage. I remember having Rampage, I'm sure. But I was about 5 and I only had a couple of games. I can't really remember much about it. This is a great start, isn't it?
Yeah, no, that's all right. Did you know anybody else with an Amstrad at the time, or
no, just me?
Yeah. Well, so did anybody else have any people you were at school with had other computers and things like that, or?
There was. Not at that age, because like I say, I was only like 5 or something. My dad had getting us it because he'd getting it off a friend. It's watching my dad on the Atari ST. That's who I can remember on the computers really around that time.
Because I've had a conversation with other people about what systems they started and when people who start with the 8-bit ones. And generally speaking, you were either in one camp and everybody had exactly the same system. It was either mostly Spectrum or 64. But a lot of people had Amstrads that we weren't aware of, and more people I've spoken to, more and more people have actually had Amstrad as the first system, and they knew somebody with Amstrad and a Spectrum, but they didn't know anybody with a Commodore 64, which is unheard of around here, because everybody had Commodore 64s around here, the odd Spectrum, but you never saw an Amstrad. I'm just wondering, is that the same way where you were at the time? Was Amstrad the popular choice amongst the families at the time, or was it you just not?
I'm the only person that I knowing from school and stuff who's ever had an Amstrad. I can't think of anyone else who's ever had one.
No,
even my cousins and stuff, because I'm the eldest cousin on both sides. I always got the first thing, and then they'd get the next generations.
Right.
After that.
Yeah, I never knew anybody with Amstrad. Never at all. I saw them in shops, but that was it. Until I actually got one myself earlier this year. That's the closest I came to ever owning one, or seeing anybody with one, or just had no idea. I think it's a bit much maligned system, really, because suffers from some bad Spectrum ports handed over, and some of the graphics are a bit bright. Should we put it mildly? The colours are very bright, but it's not a bad little system. I think
it was the most popular in France out of the 8-bits. I'm pretty sure. I've seen or read something about that. That was huge in France, the Amstrad.
The only downside, I remember you mentioned the green screen monitor. I thought, well, if you got that, that's a bit of a downside because you are missing out on some, decent colouring on it. But of course, to have a colour monitor was going to cost you another £100 on top of that, and they weren't cheap back in the day. I think the monitors themselves were probably £200, and the computer itself was somewhere about 150, 190, near enough £300-400 to have a colour monitor. And of course, the way they made them was you had to have the monitor with it.
Yeah, it was all connected. I remember it all being connected up together.
I'm lucky enough to have one with the device where you don't need a monitor. You can plug it into a television or something else, which is great because colour monitors are quite hard to find for an Amstrad. Green ones are fairly common, but colour ones now, it's pretty difficult to put your finger on one.
They're still not cheap though on eBay. They're still about £150 or something, aren't they? Complete.
They are. I got lucky. I think. I got lucky. Mrs. Bear bought one for mine. I think she paid about £70 for mine. And so that didn't come with anything else. But I got a few games from trades I'd done with it. But yeah, they aren't cheap. They seem to go for more now than the 64s and the Spectrums.
It's weird, that, isn't it?
It is. Because you look at bundles of games on eBay, Amstrad games are quite cheap, reasonably cheap to pick up compared to Spectrum and Commodore 64 games. But the unit itself is still quite expensive. I saw one at a car boot years ago. It was bloke trying to sell it for £15. There was a key missing off it. And I looked at it. I thought, no, I'm not going to. He said, you can have it for a tenner. And I always regretted it years later. I thought, I could have had that for £10. I didn't realise you needed the monitor to go with it. So if I bought it for £15 or £10, I'd have wasted my money because I realised I need the monitor to go with it as well. It's one of them. So Amstrad, it's a nice one to start with. A system I think which got unfairly treated at the time. I think it's a little bit of a renaissance since then. And I know Ginger Hippie Gaming is quite into his Amstrad stuff at the moment. He's doing a few games, or has done some recently. Because obviously we're recording this in advance of when this is going out. So if I keep dipping into the past and mentioning things that haven't happened yet, Mark, don't worry. That's because that's where this is going out. So if I make reference to something I'm uploading in a couple of weeks' time or next week, then just go with it. Right, so from the Amstrad, we move on. And we've already mentioned this one briefly already. So where did you go after that?
I can't remember if it was the Commodore 64 or the Nintendo. It was one of them, which was me next. I think it might have been the Nintendo, to be honest, when I got it for Christmas. So one of the one pieces I still want in my collection is the Nintendo Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles, as we called them over here. The big pack-in bundle. That's what I got for Christmas, and that was my first ever console. I I've said a few times I don't like the word Holy Grail because I think some people have about 100 Holy Grails. And you ask Indiana Jones, you only have one, you know.
Yeah,
so
that's it.
it is just something I really want in the collection. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, it's one of it's like I don't like the word mint. I just it's mint. I was like, no, I don't like that word at all. I prefer pristine because it sounds posher.
Yeah, it
But
does.
I'm not you. People say grail things. It's like I'm not. No, I don't like that word either.
Yeah. Well, they have a grail every week, don't they? And you're like, well, you've just had one last week. How can you have another one?
Yeah,
it's madness.
it's a great find, or one I've always wanted to have. Well, if you make a list, I suppose, again, a lot of people work off lists, don't they? They have a list of games that they want to get hold of, and once they do that, they'll tick them off as they go along, and it's one they always eludes them, I suppose. People collect differently, don't they?
Yeah, they do, which I think's good. If it's like anything, if we all did like the same things, it'd be boring. Like, so you saying pristine games there, some people won't like the Master Systems games I'll pick up because I'll get one where the kids have wrote the passwords in the books. I love stuff like that. For me, that's like nostalgia, and I know some people would hate it, but I love it. I got a football game the other day for the Master System, and it had all the stickers from Euro '92 stuck inside, and I just loved that. I thought it was absolutely, that's a piece of history for me.
That wouldn't bother me either. I don't mind that. It's when we get manuals inside that look like people have wiped their mouths and hands after they've eaten the curry with them that I don't like, and I will draw a line at. Or I mean, I've been looking to find some really nice copies of Master System games, and I've left behind some really ratty ones, but I won't have them because of the way some of the condition is. But those stickers or somebody writing the codes in the manual, I'd happily have that. I mean, when I first started collecting and showing stuff on YouTube, we used to. And again, there's a few people who will sort of testify to this. It's always nice finding a receipt in there, so you can actually find out when that game was originally bought. Or if I bought a game which had got the original receipt and the sale from CEX when somebody else bought it. So the first purchase, and then after it's been traded in, somebody else bought it. The CEX receipt was in there for when they bought it as well. I love stuff like that. It shows the history. And the archive to it. I suppose also the word that antiques people use, which I can't remember. I can't remember that. They use there's a word that they use to show something's been used or gone all the way through. I can't remember what it is, but somebody will be able to tell us. But it's always nice to find things like that.
Some David Dickinson fans watching. They'll put it in the.
I'm sure. Well, I'm old, so they're bound to be watching me. So it's not been valued for something like that. Yeah, but I can't. It's not. It begins speaking with P. It's going to bugger the hell out of me for the rest of this. Now I'm going to move on very, very quickly. So did you with the NES? Was that a big love of yours then, or?
It was my first console, and get that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game is the reason you see everything around us now. It's why I got back into collecting. Angry Video Game Nerd, obviously everyone knows James Rolfe and I've watched his videos. It was me watching him do his Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I'm going to stop saying that. It was me watching that. That was like, I remember that jump as a kid and I couldn't do that. I was doing that exact same thing and I could never get past that boss. And it was like, I want this game again. And then I got that. And then it just spiraled and spiraled. So it's the first console I ever got and really made us fall in love with games. And then in full circle, it got us back into wanting to collect games. So it's probably the most important game of my life, that.
Yeah.
If you think about it, just that for that reason.
Well, I mean, it doesn't have to be a good game, does it? I mean,
it's terrible.
It's not a good game. Let's be honest, it's not a good game. But it doesn't make any difference whether it's a good game or bad game. If it gets you into it and then it sparks you to get back into it, that's what it needs. So for you, it's an iconic game in your gaming history, gaming life. To start it all, first major console you had. And then to start your collecting again, and I can see from, Turtles are quite heavily influenced with your left-hand shoulder, which is quite a big thing, isn't it?
Oh, it was a Christmas present last year. It's Raphael, that one.
Raphael, yeah. So I've got to remember people can't see this when we're doing it, but yeah, I'm just looking around the room. But yeah, Mark's got how big is that statue? 12 inch?
It's 18 inches, that one.
18 inches, yeah.
The other ones I've got up there are 6. I've got them all up there on the side you can't see as well.
Yeah, but yeah, that's a great collection of things you mentioned earlier. So, but yeah, it just sort of sticks with you. Like I said, good game or bad game, it's the one that got you started. It's one that's you're always going to come back to. So, did you have anything else on you? Oh, sorry, come.
And as a kid in the early 90s, there was nothing better than TMT. Was the the Turtles were the biggest for me anyway. They were.
I know that. I mean, I was probably when the Turtles came on. Was it 89? Wasn't it? I think it was. I mean, I was about 14 at the time. People were into them at school, and again, like a lot of the things I mentioned, like Pokemon and what have you. I tried to get into it, but it just didn't click with me.
It's exactly like me with Power Rangers. So I was 13ish when Power Rangers came out, and my brother, he's a couple of years younger, just loved it like I loved the Turtles. But because I was 13 and playing football and chasing girls, I wasn't bothered about Power Rangers, even though it was huge,
No, Power Rangers was something I think I watched one of the very first couple of episodes they put on, and I was like, this is terrible. This is just really, really terrible. Well, there's a lot of terrible kids programs going on back then, so that was one of them for me. Did you get any other games to go? You remember from that time?
I got Mario, and like Mario. I just did a video, not last month, I think, of a Mario challenge and stuff like that. You can still put Mario on now, and it's still like you're a kid again the first time you're playing it. It is just a timeless classic. It's perfect platforming, and it's like the first huge one, isn't it? And it's still just as good today. It
is
to nail it that early. It's mental.
Well, look where the series has gone from there. I mean, if the first game was a little bit off, it wouldn't have had the impact it did. But yeah, and coming so soon after the trust in video games had gone after the video game crash, just for people to trust that game and for it to be so good and end up where it is now, it's just absolutely amazing.
Well, because Nintendo, like for Donkey Kong, they tried to get the Popeye license, and they couldn't get it for some reason, because Bluto was going to be Donkey Kong and Popeye was going to be the Jump Man or whatever he's called, basically Mario as we know him now. And they couldn't get the license, so that's why they changed it round to the donkey, to the gorilla, and to the Jump Man. So if they had gotten that license, we might never have had Mario as we know him now.
No, that's very true. It's a scary thought. Cross between a donkey and a gorilla. I don't like the idea of that. But mind you, you mentioned Popeye. I mean, that's a creaky old arcade game, but I do like playing that. That is good fun.
It's really expensive, the NES version as well, I think.
Yeah,
they did bring one out later, didn't they?
Like they also brought out an Atari 2600 version as well.
Oh,
yeah.
I've never played the Atari, I don't think.
No, me neither. I surprise people that there's a version of Double Dragon on the 2600 as well, and there's a version of Rampage on the 2600. You mentioned Rampage earlier. There's some Commando as well. There's a version of Commando on the 2600, and Ghostbusters.
Is it just as bad as the Nintendo Master System Ghostbusters?
They're just all as bad as they are. Yeah, the Ghost. I had Ghostbusters. I bought it from Toys R Us, and it's utterly dreadful. One of my least favourite games of all time, that Ghostbusters.
But the Mega Drive one's really good, actually.
But it's a different game, and it's not the same game as the 8-bits and everything else. It's a completely different license, and again, that goes for a few quid now, doesn't it? Ghostbusters on the Mega Drive.
£45-50, I think.
There's a copy appeared in one of my local independents recently, but it's got no manual, and it looks like it's been pulled out of a pond. So I probably won't be getting that.
I got it for my birthday last year off my stepdad.
I remember seeing it when it came out, and they trailed it in a magazine. It's like, wow, why is this version so much different and better than the other ones that they came out? But I don't know, one of those things. Okay, so you also mentioned the Commodore 64 around this time as well.
Yeah. So I got this. I got this for the Christmas, for my birthday, and it must have been 1991 because I remember getting that England shell suit as well, from the 1990 World Cup, where you couldn't stand next to the radiator because you'd go light, wouldn't you?
Oh dear.
I remember getting both of them for that birthday, and I never got the cassette with mine originally. I got the carts that you could get that you put into the back.
Oh right, yeah.
So it was like a multi-pack. So there was a circus game, there was Fibo's Quest, and International Soccer. So they were the games that I got.
Was that Fiendish Freddy's Big Top of Fun by any chance?
That's it, yeah. With the seal where you balance the ball and you've got to walk the tightrope. That was it, yeah.
Excellent game. Some tremendous humour in that, because there were a couple of games that came out based around circuses at the time. That was one of them. I had a game called Circus Attractions, which I think was by Rainbow Arts, which wasn't quite as good. But Fiendish Freddy's has got some real sort of quality humour in it.
Yeah, it had the muscle men, didn't it, with the big funny tashes and stuff like that.
That's it, yeah. That's the one, yeah. Flimbo's Quest, I think it was.
Flimbo's Quest, that was it.
That's it, yeah. That was a little purple character. I think it was a hat he got on as well. And International Soccer was years old by that point. I think it was one of the...
It was awful, but it was the only football game I had, so I just played it for hours and hours, even though it was like really bad. It's the same with like Italia 90 on the Mega Drive. It was the only one I had, and it's awful, but you just got to play it as a kid because you've got another few months to your birthday. You've got nothing else.
That's it. You got to get on with it. So, but yeah, international football. I'm sure that was a prototype for Emlyn Hughes' international football because they're very, very similar. But I may be wrong on that one. And I mean, the Commodore 64 just an absolutely fantastic computer for me. I mean, it's my favourite 8-bit. I have to be honest. I never had one, but like I said earlier, everybody I knew had one, so I played on an awful lot of them.
Well, my favourite game is one that you hate.
Oh no, which one's that one?
Or maybe not hate, but I'm sure I heard you say you didn't like it.
Go on.
Turrican.
I don't dislike Turrican. It's just that I don't get the sort of euphoric feeling that most people do when they play it. I mean, I played Turrican on the Amiga when it first came out, and it was all right, but I didn't think it was an all right game. And I revisited Turrican and Turrican 2 for Commodore Corner, and they were okay, but I just couldn't get on with them, and I think that stayed with me all the way through. So I can go back and play Turrican on. I know I've got copies of Turrican on the Mega Drive and even the ST probably somewhere. And if I play the 16-bit version again, I'll probably get the same feeling I had playing the 8-bit version. It just doesn't sit with me. Don't know why.
Have you played Universal Soldier on the Mega Drive?
No.
So obviously when the film came out with Dolph Lundgren and Van Damme.
Yeah.
They basically just took Turrican and they've like changed the character sprites to Van Damme and Dolph Lundgren's like the bad guy, the boss battles and stuff, and just called it Universal Soldier.
How do they get away with that?
I don't know. It's Turrican, but with like just changed the characters around.
Change the characters around, yeah. Oh dear me. No, I've seen the film, but I didn't know there was a game based around it. So that's it's quite a scary proposition, really, because the film wasn't all that good.
I'm all ears.
Oh, it's the era of the cheesy one-liner, wasn't it? Oh,
yeah.
They were all action films are laden full of that, weren't they? Did you eventually get a tape deck for it?
Yes.
Or?
Yeah, I did. Because that's how I played Turrican via tape. And was it UK Rampage, the wrestling game?
Oh, European Rampage.
European Rampage, sorry, yeah.
Terrible
Awful.
game.
That was the tag team one, wasn't it?
Yeah. And you could not get away from the opponent. It just followed you everywhere. There's no...
Oh, it was awful.
No... The WrestleMania game that came out wasn't great. It sold bucket loads, and I bought it on the Amiga, but it wasn't great. But at least you had a fighting chance of trying to do something with it. European Rampage is just awful.
But going back to international soccer, it was like, it's a wrestling game and it's all I've got, and I'm going to enjoy it no matter what, even though it's awful.
They weren't. You didn't have much choice really. It was either that. It was WrestleMania. If you want to go back to rock and wrestle, the really old games, otherwise, it was the console versions of Super WrestleMania, Wrestle War, things like that before we got to Fire Pro. But yeah, you had to make do with what you did. But that's a really expensive. That's a hit squad, if I remember. Is that an expensive hit squad to get on the Commodore 64?
Oh, I've
European
not looked
Rampage?
at prices for them in years.
I know WrestleMania is quite costly on, I think maybe the Spectrum, but I think European Rampage is one of the more costlier 64 hit squads. If anybody knows, let me know, because I'm pretty sure it is. But yeah, terrible game. I remember it came out, reviews for it were awful.
Oh, it was terrible.
Yeah. Anything else from the 64 you want to bring in?
It's a really famous game, and as soon as I start describing it, you'll know what it is. I just can't remember the name of it. You were basically a ball, and you used to just bounce, and you had to go on to the next bit, and then that bit is a bounder.
Bounder, yeah.
Bounder. I remember having Bounder.
That's a good game. That's good. I like it. It's really. There's sequels onto Bounder Bounces Back or something, I think it was.
Oh, I can't remember.
Yeah, but they're really good. Simple game, very simple game, like a lot of them were back then, but very addictive to keep you going and playing one more time.
I look at it now. Back then they were games. Now they seem to be more of an experience, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
A lot of them don't. I still love them, and they're still games, but they're more of an experience than just like a game. If do you know what I'm trying to?
I do follow you, and sometimes it's best if you don't go back and look at them and play them again, because it becomes an experience rather than doing that. And anybody who hasn't played them before trying to play them now, that is an experience. it's especially the difficulty levels on some of them. It will break a lot of modern gamers, I'm guessing.
Yeah, well, that's it. Like, because obviously I talk about the Soulsborne games a lot, but going back to the 8-bit days, I know it's cliche to say NES hard, but they genuinely were harder games than what you get now. And you don't have the internet to look things up like you do now if you're stuck.
No, you have to depend on magazines where people draw maps. Again, tell modern people, people used to sit there and map games. It's an art which doesn't exist anymore now. And you see these wonderful, intricate 2 or 3 page spreads in Zap or Crash or Amstrad Action or whatever, where someone has sat there and drawn everything out and then sent it in so people can buy the magazine and then take the map home with them and play the game and find out the correct route all the way through. It just doesn't happen.
One of my biggest regrets in the last 6 months, I got Metroid for the Game Boy, and I played Metroid. I was talking to Chris over Retro 48K, and he says, Did you just Google the map and look at it on your phone, or did you write it down? I was like, I just Googled it and looked at it that way. And I think I lost something from the experience, not drawing my own map for playing Metroid for the first time.
That's it.
Something I do regret,
Yeah, it does. I never went as far as mapping something back then, but I'd write things down or notes down in case I got stuck somewhere, and you come back and play it again afterwards. You just wouldn't. But you think, because you had limited lives back, unless you knew the cheat code to type in, your lifespan in the game was limited. Now it's multiple lives, unlimited lives. That's why a lot of us from that era will say, "Oh, games are a lot easier nowadays." Well, maybe they are, maybe they aren't. But you try and complete games where you got one-hit kills from 1983. You could pull your hair out, aren't you? That's not the experience you want.
One quick thing I'll tell you that I am sorry, I don't want to make this cut too long for you, but
no, sorry, come on, mate.
Talking about like getting into the character and stuff. I remember my friend got LMA Manager for the PlayStation 1. I can't remember what season. I think about 98, something like that. No, Premier Manager 98 for the PlayStation 1.
Yeah.
And it was the school holidays. He'd get in the game, and I was going round to his first thing in the morning, because you could do 2 teams. You could both pick a team. Would flip the coin. I was Newcastle. I think he chose Man U or Liverpool, whoever at the time. And to get in the character before I went, I put my school clothes on, the shirt and the tie and the pants and stuff. I remember them old long Adidas jackets, but that were all the craze of the mid-90s, and all the footballers had the managers.
Yes, yeah, I know.
I had one with the knee length, and I put that over the top. And it was in the summer, sweating hot, and I just sat in his room with him all day, out the real manager.
I love that. That's absolutely brilliant. I used to say things like that when I used to get highly into these football manager games, and someone asked me, said, "Do you really get really deep into it?" I said, "Oh yeah." So I sit at home there with the shirt and tie and the jacket on, and I'm sitting there in front of the computer screen. I'm going like that, and come over here, and all the hand gesticulations, and referee makes, "Yeah, referee, come on." He's like, "You don't do that, really?" I said, "No, I don't. I just sit there with the screen and play it." But you get into it the other way, apart from doing that, you're about as immersed into it as you can be. So, yeah. Ah, man, how's the days?
Well, that's 1998, and it's still fresh in my memory. It's like that's what life's all about, making memories like that, isn't it?
Exactly, and I completely agree with that. And you get a lot of memories from playing these games and the things associated with it, things you do. I mean, that's just brilliant. I love that. That's superb. That is really superb. So, Commodore 64. We then move on. There's a couple of systems here which we had a quick chat before, and you mentioned these were sort of smack bang next to each other.
Yeah.
So I'll let you talk about these two, and then we will get to your games of choice after we talk about these ones.
So, like I mentioned earlier, my mum and dad had split up when I was quite young. So, as a young, I was quite good. I worked out how to play them off each other. So, my dad was asking what my mum was getting us for Christmas, and I said, "Oh, I think she's getting us a Mega Drive, but that's all I'll need," because I knew my dad was massive into his Amiga. So he went, "Well, is there anything else you want?" I went, No, the Mega Drive's enough." So he says, "Well, I thought you liked my Amiga." I says, "I do, but I don't want you spending all that money on his dad. My mum's getting us that." So anyway, my dad got us the A600 for Christmas. But I did the exact same thing with my mum, but the other way around, saying, "Oh, my dad's getting us the Amiga, but that's all I'll need, mum. Don't you waste your money on me, and stuff like that." And then I got the Mega Drive off her. So it was like, that is my best Christmas ever, getting the A600 and the Mega Drive.
That's a Christmas that probably nobody else ever had, ever. I mean, we deliberately, it sounds cruel, don't say we deliberately playing them off against each other, or
oh yeah.
I say he said it quite sincerely. "Oh no, Dad's get me this, Mum. Don't spend your money on that. It's fine. I'll cope with that." And
oh no, I was a little sod and I was playing them off each other totally.
I have to ask because just in case you were, because people will be going, "Oh, what a wonderful child he was," and they both felt sorry for him. So they both bought him something. No, it turns out you were manipulating the pair of them. So there we go.
Yeah, because I'd have the Christmas day with my mum, so I got the Mega Drive and stuff, and then Boxing Day was the second Christmas for me. I'd go around to my dad's then, so I'd have two Christmases. So it was like, for me, I don't want to get too much into this, but my mum and dad split up was like brilliant for me, because I've got brothers and sisters I wouldn't have had, and I had two Christmases and stuff like that. So I've got no bad memories from it. So I was quite happy this split up.
No, that's okay. Yeah, I mean it works out better in some ways and in others, doesn't it? So it's one of those. What year was that? Was that
1992?
92. Okay. So the Mega Drive's probably, where are we? 92. That's before the Mega CD came out.
Yeah,
I think it was, wasn't it? Yeah. And the A600. Go on, sorry.
Because Sonic 2 came out in the September, and that was the game that made us want the. I don't think the Mega CD came out till about late 93, 94, was it? Possibly?
Yes, probably a bit later than that, yeah. And the A600 as well.
Yeah.
Did you play on a 500, or was it?
My dad had the 500.
Yeah.
So, at the time, I thought the 600 was better because it was 100 more. It wasn't until later on I found out. I used to tell my dad. He knew because obviously he had the 500. I was going, mine's better than yours because it's 100 times better. Stuff like that, like a daft kid.
Yeah. That's funny. Exactly the same machine underneath. It was cut down? Was it did they take some bits out of it or something, or did they?
I'm not sure about that. I know it was smaller. It was more compact.
Yeah,
I think it had a
I had
different
a
power box
500.
as well.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's like the other version, like the PlayStation one, when they brought the smaller version out, they got rid of that giant power pack that was in it. But yeah, a lot of people I knew. I had probably one of the last people I knew had a 500. Most people I knew had 600s. I don't know anybody with a 500 plus.
It's always more iconic for me, the 500, because I always instantly think of Noel's house party, because that was the prize the kids used to win. You know, the cartoon pack. If I hear Amiga, I'm just watching Noel Edmonds with that cartoon pack and Captain Planet. You know, that's instantly all I think.
Yeah, it was Captain Planet, Lemmings, and Bart versus the Space Mutants, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So you got a mixture of the good, the bad, and the really ugly in that one. We talked about the Back to the Future pack of being pretty poor. That one was not much better.
Lemons is the only thing that'll bring you.
Yeah, but Captain Planet. Okay. Yeah, and Bart versus Space Mutants. Some people like that. Some people don't. I don't think there's a lot of middle ground with that game.
When I was showing off Captain Planet the other day for the Nintendo, and I described it as the Greta Thunberg simulator.
Well, they're trying to sell you a brand new cartoon series. Great, there's a brand new cartoon series. Captain Planet sounds fantastic. Oh, it's all about ecological matters. I don't want to watch that. Well, as a child, I'm not interested in that. I want to see, spaceships and things getting blown up, and you got Power Rangers, you got Turtles, and you got this do-gooding Captain Planet and his mates. No, I'm not interested in that. Of course, 30 years later. It came out the
same time as you had like the X-Men come out. You know, the really good early 90s X-Men cartoons.
That's right.
It was like, what you're going to watch, Wolverine or Earth, Wind, Fire, Rain, Water, whatever it was.
Well, yeah. Oh, yes, it was a five forces, wasn't it? So, yeah. No, I just like, no, not interested. Thank you very much. Give me something. And of course, The Simpsons was on. The Simpsons were out at the same time as well. So you got cutting edge situation comedy through cartoon form. I'm just going to sit down and watch bloody Captain Planet. Stupid idea.
Do you never find it weird though with The Simpsons? Like, because I didn't have Sky, so I'd never seen The Simpsons. But we're at school going around, eat my shorts, cowabunga, singing the Simpsons song and stuff like that, and I say, I've never seen the show.
Yeah. I didn't get cable to the end of '93, so I hadn't seen The Simpsons properly until then. But do the Bartman, which was always on top of the pops. You got the video to go with it. I had a Simpsons T-shirt. I'd never seen an episode of The Simpsons, but I had a Simpsons T-shirt.
It's weird, isn't it? Like we were obsessed with it and we'd never seen it.
I never used to miss an episode. New episode 6:30 on Sunday on Sky. Never used to miss an episode for about 8-9 years. And then
late 90s, late 90s, early 90s. It was much CTV.
Yeah,
it just died off, didn't it?
Yeah, I used to go to the pub with a mate of mine, and we usually on a Sunday or a Monday. So you see the new Simpsons on Sunday, and that was it. So that's how we discovered Family Guy as well. Just when that first started on Sky, won the very first series, and we said, "Look at that new series, Family Guy." Yeah, I don't know about it. I don't know. We watched it. We thought it was great first time up, and again, that was exactly the same thing. Sort of 5 or 6 series of Family Guy, and then.
Well, it got cancelled until it got that popular on DVD, didn't it? So that they brought it back for that, I think.
That's right. Cause I think it got cancelled halfway through the third series going out or being made, so they didn't really care what happened for the second half of the third series. And then when it came back, they made a big do about the fact they were cancelled and then brought back again, which is something that doesn't usually happen. Shows finish and then they get rebooted or brought back with the original cast. Nothing gets cancelled and then resurrected. Doesn't happen usually. Patented tangent. I quite like that one. We'll go off on that one. So, favourite memories of the Mega Drive and the Amiga?
Again, I played a lot more games on the Amiga than I can remember on the Amstrad, the Commodore 64. But again, it's sitting with my dad and watching my dad, play the Amiga. He would play Dungeon Master and I the Beholder, and they were a bit too complicated for like me as a 9-10-year-old, whatever I was at the time. But we just, like me and my dad, like I say, I'd go there on the weekend and we'd spend all weekend just me. I'd literally sit on the bed and just watch them. I wasn't allowed to speak too much because it'd put him off. And I would just sit. I would just sit there and just go on like these adventures with my dad, and he'd let me name the characters, and it was just. I'm one of the lads. Like my dad's always been like my hero, and I've always looked up to him, and I just want to spend time with him and stuff like that. And that's how we spend time with video games.
That's good. That's good. My dad never got into games. There's certain games he played, but he wasn't something that we shared together. But quite a few people have said that, Mark, to be honest with you. It's some people had that relationship and played games together, and some didn't. So, but it's good that happened. So those games like Eye of Beholder and Dungeon Master, I mean, heavy going, those ones.
I flashed Dungeon Master up. It was free. It's free. You can just play it online at the minute. I flashed it up a few months ago, and I was like, this hasn't aged very well.
Well, a lot of things from back then haven't they, really? But those were sort of games. It's been like a lifelong avoidance on my part that I just don't see the appeal in them. I didn't see the appeal at the time when I used to see them in the magazines or out in the shops. Just not interested in them. I probably missed out on a great world of intrigue and interest that just passed me by, but just not my thing.
Like Eye of the Beholder, I would imagine that will still hold up a lot more than Dungeon Master, because basically Dungeon Master, you're just looking at the same type of brick walls, aren't you? In Eye of the Beholder, did mix it up a bit, and they brought out one as well. Remember the TV show Nightmare?
Yes.
Basically, it was just Eye of the Beholder, but they changed, but they called it. It was Nightmare, But this is exactly like how you play Eye of the Beholder. I remember that one a lot. Monkey Island. I remember my dad having that, because I remember the second one was it like 11 discs for the second one that he had?
I think it's 11. It's 10 to 12, something like that.
Yeah.
I know I've got it somewhere. It's a massive amount of discs.
A lot of the games I had though, they were just copy games. My dad had a friend, and we would just get all the copy games like James Pond and Turrican, Rainbow Island. And for me, the box art on the Amiga Rainbow Island is still the best box art on any game I've ever seen. I absolutely love it.
Box art again is something else which you don't see nowadays. Because back then, if you didn't know the game, you were basing your opinion on what was on the back of the box or the front of the box, weren't you? In fact, even before that, going back to the very, very early 80s, we didn't get screenshots on the back. You would just look at a front cover of a game, and if you've got £2-3 in your pocket to spend, that's all you got to spend. You're going to buy a game based on the cover.
Some of them look like 80s heavy metal rock bands, or didn't they? Like Barbarian with the wolf.
Yeah,
you see that, and in like all obviously the Conan the Barbarian explosion at the time, Wizards and He-Man coming out. You see Wolf with a sword and the beautiful blonde woman lying on the floor. You're like, I'm picking that game up.
That's it. Yeah, Maria Whittaker on the second one, was she?
I don't know the names to be. I just remember Wolf.
Maria Whittaker was a famous Page 3 girl. Anybody's not aware, you've heard of Samantha Fox, I take it.
Yeah, she's still big in Japan. Touch me.
That's
still
one.
sells in Japan. That Linda Lusardi is my favorite.
Oh yes, yeah. But Maria Whittaker was actually on the front cover of Barbarian. She maybe with the first one or second one or both, I don't know. And there was a cheat in the game where you could actually do something, and you make it. She was in the background. You can make a bra disappear.
Oh
yeah, so yeah, 8-bit pixelated nipples, which is you can imagine how good they were. I mean, if you ever played an 8-bit strip poker game, we'll testify to that.
Because you've got Fabio as well, haven't you? Is he on Iron Sword or something on the Nintendo? That famous model Fabio.
Yes, I remember him. I don't remember him being on the cover of a game though.
I'm sure it's Ironside.
Hang on, we're gonna get a visual here, so I'll actually have to describe this. Fabio, for those of you who aren't aware of him, I think wasn't he voted the world's most sexiest man or something?
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
Yeah. Sort of. Oh, I can see it. Yes. So the game's Iron Sword. Yeah, it looks like him, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Fabio.
It's a drawing, not a photograph, isn't it?
No, it's a photo.
Is it?
I've got a
so it is.
protector on the box. You can't.
Ah, right. Okay, Bobby. Yeah. Oh well, I didn't know that. That's all. There we go. Wonder he got that gig then.
He looks like a barbarian, doesn't he, with the long hair?
Yeah, it looks nothing like Mario, does he? You know, to that would look great on that character. Oh dear. What about the Mega Drive? Because you said you played more on the Amiga, I think you said. But what about the Mega Drive?
So Sonic 2 was the reason I wanted a Mega Drive. Like every kid who probably got it in 1992, you know, that Christmas it was Sonic 2. You know, I loved Mario, but I played Sonic around with friends, and I was just like going from the Nintendo, which I'm not going to stop knocking the Nintendo, but you know, looks wise, and then going to play Sonic for the first time. That first level, you know, the Green Hill Zone with the bright colors and the speed, and
the music.
It was just like, whoa, I'm in the future now.
That's right.
It's just, you know, but you don't get them leaps. I was talking about with someone else the other day. From the PlayStation 4 to the PlayStation 5, you can tell a slight difference, but then you look at Nintendo to Mega Drive, or Master System even to Mega Drive, the leap is just huge, isn't it?
It was the same from 8-bit to 16-bit as well with the micros. You don't see that now. I mean, the only difference I've been made clear between the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 is that it loads a bit quicker.
Yeah,
and I said this. I think I said this on the podcast before. I said that's not a selling point to me. I don't care how long a game takes to load. I play tape games. That gives you an idea. I don't give a toss about how long games take to load.
Yeah.
But where's the technological improvement that's going to force me to fork out another £600 for a new console? I don't see it. I just don't see it with that. But back then, as you were quite rightly saying, the difference between Master System and Mega Drive, the jump from there from NES to Super NES, it's two completely different worlds. You just don't have that now. There's just nothing there. I suppose really the only jump we've probably got is from standard gaming to virtual reality now.
I've tried that. I'm just not. It's not for me. I want to sit there with a controller and look at the telly. I'm not interested.
I've played a couple of games in VR. I don't mind it, but I'm not saying he's not convinced me to go out and buy one of these Oculus Rifts. What is it? Oculus Rift they're calling this one like that. Yeah. He's no idea.
There's one of them where the new Half-Life's exclusive on it. I don't know. It's one of them. I don't know which one.
But then again, people have testified that playing Resident Evil in VR is literally brown trousers time. So they must be quite good. But there we go.
I'll pass.
Anything else on the Mega Drive before we move on to your gaming list, or are you happy with
that? Sonic just made us buy the console. If it wasn't for Sonic 2, I wouldn't have played the likes of Splatterhouse and Robocop vs Terminator. Like these amazing games that I've played because of that one game.
It's a fantastic console. I'd always. It's right up there for me with one of the best. It's the first actual console I owned, apart from my own owned anyway. And I bought mine second hand, and it was just great. I love the way it looks. The original, the Mark 1. The game boxes are great for it. It's some fantastic games on there as well. And I like the Super Nintendo, but I think when I put the two together, I'm always going to pick the Mega Drive.
For me, it's got that cool factor, and like Sonic sums it up with the attitude. For me, Sega had like an attitude and a cool factor, over Nintendo with like the cutesy Mario. Not knocking Mario, please, no one come at us. But do you know what I mean? Though it just had that cool factor.
I do know, and it's really funny when I started recollecting or collecting retro stuff. One of the first systems I got was the Mega Drive, but one of the systems I wanted first up was a Super Nintendo. It's quite. I got the Mega Drive first. I got Super Nintendo shortly afterwards. But I'd always want, I'd much rather have had a Super Nintendo urgently as opposed to a Mega Drive. But the Mega Drive was there; it was an easy one to do. So, but I love it. Really, really fantastic console. I mean, you said Nintendo growing up. I mean, even though I didn't have these systems, I was very much and always have been in the Sega camp, just because of the quality of the arcade games that I played growing up in the arcades before the home system, before the home consoles came out, and then it was always seemed to have the best games. But I think with Nintendo stuff, it was more original games that I don't know. It just felt there were a more variety of titles. But if you want the big console, the big arcade games you played, you get the Sega system. You want the difference in variety, you go and get the Nintendo stuff. So
it's like now it's all about exclusives and what you prefer as a gamer. I'm PlayStation because I prefer their exclusives over Halos and Gears. It's never changed, has it? In 30, 40 years, it's always you'll choose the console that's got the best exclusives. That's what I think anyway.
That's a good point, because a lot of people do collect on an exclusivity. So I know some people just with the original Xbox. Not a lot of people like that machine, but they'll collect the exclusives for it because it's different to the multitude of PlayStation. You're pointing at yourself, multitude of PlayStation titles. I think Big Game Al's the same. He buy the exclusive games to the original Xbox. Yeah. He won't go for a full set. He'll just want to get those that were available for it, which were not on PlayStation. That's literally all
I've got. They're only on Xbox games. They're the only ones I've got.
There must be an appeal, though, of owning 3 copies of Open Season across the GameCube, the Wii, the PlayStation 2. No, just me on that one, I think. Did it come out on the GameCube? I can't remember. I don't know. It came out, it came on the Wii. So there's probably 4 systems it came out on. Anyway, we digress. Let's come away from your gaming history then. Let's get on to some of these games which we've managed to get to this desert island I've marooned you on. So again, as I said, some games on this list which we haven't spoken about to anybody previously. Some people we have mentioned them before, but it's always good to get your own spin on it. So let's start with the first game on your list. And again, not a game. I say this before, not a game I know an awful lot about. So I'm completely and utterly at your disposal here to educate me about this first game.
So the first game I've chose, anyone who knows me, they knew one of these games was going to be on there, but I've went for the original Dark Souls. Now, I love Sekiro and I love Bloodborne and the other Dark Souls, but just it being the first one, it had learned all the lessons from Demon Souls, and the first half of the game for me is like the perfect game. Now, the second half, they started running out of time and running out of money, so it's a bit rushed, and the quality drops off massively. But that first 10 hours of play of Dark Souls, it just absolutely blew us away. And I've put in the PlayStation 3 and the PlayStation 4 remaster, I put about 250 hours into it. And then I was playing it on the Switch at sea, and I'd put about 50, 60 hours into that. And something had happened in the game that hadn't happened. It was in 300 hours, a new event. And I was like, how deep is this game? For still find new things this deep into it and that amount of hours into it just like blew me mind. So I picked that over. I prefer Bloodborne as a game, but just for Dark Souls introducing me to the series, and like my gaming tastes now have changed because of this game.
I mean, to find something new after 300 hours of gameplay is something else, isn't it?
Yeah, I was like, that's mental.
Did you have to sort of double check yourself and think, what's happened here? Have I stumbled across something completely new?
Yeah, I was like, what? I thought the game had bugged out or had crashed. I was like, this has never happened to us. And I know the game inside out. I just found it absolutely, it was just mental.
And so if you know it that well, you're going to recognise something immediately, which is sort of off kilter. That is unbelievable. Because when you play something for that long, you'd have thought you'd uncover pretty much most of it.
That's it. I just thought I was doing another run through just of a game that I love, and then this happened, and I was like, "What do I do now?" 300 hours in, I was like, "Oh, what do I do?" And that's just for me. That was just like an amazing experience that I'll never forget. That like, bang, this game still got me. By the balls. 300 hours later. There's not many games you can say that about. No,
you're absolutely right. And you mentioned it's been remastered as well. So, what was was it a straightforward, just a tarting up, or was it actually improved from the original? Or
so, the original came out on the PlayStation 3. It suffered a bit in some of the lava levels. It was like unbearable to look at. So they've just tidied it up a bit for the PlayStation 4, and then obviously the servers had died on the PS3 one, so they brought the servers back up for the multiplayer, but which isn't like a normal multiplayer that you expect. It's if you're a player, you can leave a little message of how to beat a boss, and then someone else who's playing will come along and they can read your message online and stuff like that. It's like a really cool mechanic that they've got to it. There is like single battles you can do, but it's not something I'm interested in. I like single player solo experiences.
For someone like myself who's never actually played this game or any of the versions of it, what would be a massive selling point to get somebody interested in it?
It's got a reputation for being hard. Even if you've never played it, you've heard the memes, haven't you? Get good and stuff like that. And when you first start, it is really hard. It's daunting. It's challenging. But when you beat your first boss and then you start learning the mechanics of the character and how the combat works, you got to be slow and methodical in your attacks. Don't just rush in there. Take your time. Learn, get weak spots on the enemies. Learn their patterns and stuff like that. When you finally start learning that and it clicks, there's no experience you'll have in gaming that will give you that high when you beat that boss for the first time after trying to beat them 10, 15 times. And it's like, I've overcome that through hard work, which is like something in life, looking at life. If you achieve anything in life outside of gaming, after hard work and dedication, you feel accomplished, don't you? And you get a high. And Dark Souls, nothing, I was getting that high just through sheer determination that I'm going to do this. It's not going to better me.
Okay. Well, that sounds something which is it's a good recommendation, that as well. I think if you know a game inside out, so it depends what you sort of game you are. I'm one of these people who like to get something and plow, not say plow through it, but not learn my way through it. I learn the hard way. I'll go in too fast, and then, as you said, if you do, you need to work out the methodology behind it and take a bit more care and attention, and you'll get a better experience from it. So, from someone like myself, probably I would have played that straight off, jumped in, and probably got completely the wrong experience. Now I know that that's probably not the right way to enjoy that game.
I did. I played it. Got killed a few times and put it down and didn't go back to it for years.
There we go. So that's quite good then, because that first of all goes to show what I'm talking about is true. So that's good. always a benefit on that one. But yeah, from your experience, someone you've tried, put down, gone away from, come back to it again, and has now made this short list of games that you'd be stuck on a desert island with.
Yeah. There's a few games in history. So once you had Space Invaders, everything was a Space Invaders clone. Pac-Man, Mario, everything was a platformer clone. Street Fighter, Doom, all the way through. And now you've got that. It's a Souls-like. It's a soul. It's made its own like genre. And I can't remember the last game to do that where it carved its own. Right, every game that's like this is called that or clone of that.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, what would be a close example to it, if you can think of one?
I suppose you could say it's a 3D version of maybe a Metroidvania.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
You've got the open world with interlinked paths where it all leads you back to a hub area. There's finding new abilities and upgrading and stuff like that. I suppose that's the easiest way to describe it.
Is it linear based, or are you able to sort of explore your own way around it?
It's not linear. It is linear based, but it makes you believe it's not. So you've still got to beat the bosses, but you can beat them in certain orders that you want to do it to a certain degree. So it makes you feel that it's not linear, but really it is pushing you down a path, but it doesn't make you feel it. So that's quite a good thing, isn't it?
Yeah, because I know some people get tied down that they don't like the rigid framework of having to go from one point to another. If you've got a bit of flexibility, you can go around in your own time. Sometimes you have to follow the story anyway, but if you've got the ability to go off and start, say, tangents, but different areas, and then come back to the story, then you're okay from that. So Yeah, no,
But sometimes like Skyrim, I love Skyrim, I love The Witcher. But sometimes you do lose focus of the story because you go off and do something else for 10 hours and then you come back to the story and you're like, what was happening again? So it swings and roundabouts, isn't it? You know,
that's it. Yeah, no, you sell that very well. I'm intrigued now. It's just one of these great things about doing these is listening to other people's experiences. And again, that is a game probably I would not even consider picking up or looking at or whatever. But so many people have done on there before, have sold me on games. I'm thinking, you know what? I'll add that to my list. If I do see it out and about, I might have a look at it and see if it's something I'll pick up. So yeah, it's a good job with that one.
I sent a copy to the man behind you.
Oh, did you? Oh, David, yeah. What did he think of it?
He hasn't played it yet. He's promised us he will.
It's on his to-do. It's on his to-play pile, which will 2033, I think, by the time I get around to playing those.
I love David. He's so funny, isn't he?
I'm going to get him on with one of these days. I'm determined to. Keeps making excuses. He's too busy. I don't know. Again, like yourself, Mark, somebody I know I could sit down with and just sit there and talk for hours on end about stuff.
He's brilliant.
Yeah, there's be games, could be stuff. We could just talk about anything. We'll be absolutely fine, as long as I'll get him before he gets too drunk. Which is usually about 10 o'clock in the morning, so you'll be really, really careful. But we love Dave. Big favourite of the TMB, and one of the few people who follow me, not quite from the start, but right at the very, very beginning, has followed me all the way through. I love that. He's just a really wonderful guy.
My granddad would describe him as a man with club foot. He can't keep his foot out the club.
Oh dear me. Yeah, I think everybody loves Dave. He's brilliant.
Yeah.
I hope he's listening. I know he's listening. He's at work probably at the moment, when he should be working and not listening to this rubbish. But there we go. Right. So Dark Souls was your first game.
Yep.
Let's move on to your second one. And I think this one, for anybody who knows, you probably sort of, with your interests, sums you up quite well, really.
So I've went for Resident Evil 1. Now, that is the next one I picked, isn't it?
That is, yes.
Yeah. So
I'd look surprised if you didn't.
It was really hard between this and Silent Hill, to be honest. It's so I've just went for the first one. Like the second one, I'll agree, is probably the better game, mechanically, and it's got a lot more. The action and the controls are all better. And it's got little nice touches, leaning on the shotgun as you're walking, as if you're injured and stuff. But I just love the setting of the mansion. I think it just makes it's a great horror setting. That haunted, not haunted in this case, but the scary mansion. I just love the setting of it. And going from the Mega Drive, again, when I say this, I'm not knocking any of the older systems, but going from the Mega Drive to then Resident Evil on the PlayStation 1, it was unless it's hard to describe to anyone now who's maybe my nephews who are 13, 14, but when I played Resident Evil for the first time and there was voice acting in it, and there was little things like you could get a floppy disk and put it into a PC and type a password in the game. It was it was really mind-blowing stuff at the time. And I feel sorry for my nephews in some ways, like the young ones, because they're not getting such leaps of whoa, what's happening now? They've grew up with the PlayStation 3 and the 360, then the PS4 and the Switch, and there's not that much difference between them, really, is there?
That's right.
They're not getting what we got when we're younger. That wow factor. This, looking in before a new console came out, looking in the magazines, computer video games or something like that, and look at how good that game looks, and they're not getting that because they're just really missing out. I feel sorry for them.
That's right. You mentioned you might have picked Silent Hill. Was there a reason you picked Resi over Silent Hill? Or was it that close? You just tossing a coin?
I think Resident Evil, on the whole's got the better games. I'd say Silent Hill 2 is my favourite out of all of them, But as a collection, I think the Resident Evil games, and they're still going really strong now. I just finished Village a couple of months ago, and it's absolutely fantastic. And it kickstarted that survival horror genre, didn't it? You might not have got Silent Hill as popular if it wasn't for Resident Evil.
But it redefined the horror. I suppose not only survival horror, but redefined the horror genre really. Because I know there've been a few games up until that point, but nothing like this. I mean, I had the first one as well when it came out. Not my sort of game at all. And I must be honest with you, I didn't play a huge amount of it because I thought I'm going to get scared here. Being honest about it, I don't really do horror. Full stop. It's just not my thing. But I been playing this the first time, and I was on the edge of my seat playing it. Just going every corner, open every door. You're not quite sure what's there, and it just. We said, experience playing a game. It's an experience. This game, first time you played, it's an experience. Forget the running and the jumping and the shooting and whatever you got to do. It's just the experience of playing it. Sends chills down my spine just thinking about it. Just how playing it for the first time that sort of comes flooding back to you. That bit where every mentioned bit you walk down the corridor, the dog jumps to the window.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd leapt a mile. I shot up. I was like, "What the hell?"
You'll never forget that memory, will you? Like the first time you played it, and it was before the internet and stuff, and you didn't see 100 videos with that in the trailer, did you? So when you played it, that was happening to you for the first time. You didn't have any clue it was going to happen. The only advertising I ever remember seeing for the game, it was in a magazine, and there was a bath just filled up with blood, and it just said Resident Evil, and I was like,
I remember that. Yeah.
What is this game? Yeah. But it kickstarted, like, zombies have always been popular, from George A. Mario in the 50s or 60s, whenever it was. They've always been there, but I don't think you would have got Walking Dead. I don't think you would have got the explosion that you got again in zombies if it wasn't for Resident Evil. I think it did make that like subgenre of horror blow up again.
I think you're right, because as you mentioned, Night of the Living Dead films, it was the late 60s, I think it was, into the 70s. Then you had the trilogy of films, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, etc. I'm not familiar with a lot of these, but they were quite popular. And then there did seem to be a lull, and it sort of went into more the Nightmare on Elm Street type horror. And you said with the Resident Evil becoming very, very popular, the zombie genre rose again. It's quite appropriate, isn't it, really? I wasn't planning on saying that. It's just going to be at the time. But as you said, you're absolutely right. I don't think we'd have all these zombie films and TV shows, the Walking Dead comic books, etc., if Resident Evil hadn't been the sort of game changer it was. Because
so like you said, so you had the 60s, 70s, 80s, and then the last most like big one I remember was the early 90s, which was the remake of Night of the Living Dead, and then I can't remember anything in between that until Resident Evil. Obviously, I'm sure Scott Sega Zombie's watching this. Well, there was an Italian film in 1984.
We'll be there with his notebook making notes and letting us all know where we've gone wrong. So
yeah, but I do think Resident Evil pushed like that zombie. It definitely into mainstream conscious.
Yeah,
there was some Italian zombie films knocking about, but mainstream, it was Resident Evil that, and then obviously you got the Resident Evil films as well, haven't you? Which 8 of them. So they're not very good.
They're not very good. No.
They still make money at the box office, or they wouldn't be bringing them out, would they?
No, well, yeah, but they keep bringing out certain films no matter what, don't they? I mean, how many Police Academy films were there? Well, I don't remember there was a huge demand for those going back to the cinema each time. I don't remember anybody laughing. Anyway, as you mentioned Silent Hill, we've just talked about films very, very briefly. What did you make of the Silent Hill film with Sean Bean in it?
I thought it was really good. It told a similar story, but it changed just enough so it felt fresh, and it added to a good video game film should add to the game story. and I think it did. It expanded on the story of Silent Hill.
Mm.
I thought it was really good.
Having never played a game in the Silent Hill series, in fact, never actually owned a Silent Hill game until a few weeks back, but I did see the film a few years ago, and like I said, not really my sort of film at all. But I sat there and watched it all the way through. I didn't think it's too bad. But having not played the game, I don't know
like
its
that
place
as well.
on it. There's what, sorry?
There's a place. There's a place in America. It had mines underground, and they had a big fire there. And basically, the whole town's been evacuated for like 30, 40 years because it's still just burning underneath. All the mines are burning.
Wow.
Very much, like Silent Hill. 30, 40 years at least. This town has just been burning from underground.
Wow. There we go.
One quick thing with Silent Hill.
Yeah.
You've never played Silent. There's not many people are going to be able to say this, but if you've not played Silent Hill till you've played hundreds of meters underwater with all the creaking of the pressure hull coming in on you, and that's the only time you've played Silent Hill properly.
Oh, right. Well, that sounds scary. I'm already bit. Oh dear, I'm not sure I like the sound of that, but all right. It very quick in terms of Resident Evil, the original one is that for you the best one of the series, best one you played?
No, it's not the best, but it's the most memorable one, and it's the one that kickstarted everything. A lot of these games that I've picked aren't necessarily the best in the series or my favorite, but they're the ones that I remember most, maybe. Because the remake of Resident Evil 2, you've got to say that's probably the best because it looks the best, it sounds the best, but it's just not Resident Evil 1. It's not. I didn't get that experience playing it as a 35-year-old is what I did playing that as a 12, 13-year-old.
Sure. And very quickly, any love for Resident Evil 6 at all?
No.
There we go. Yeah. No one says yes to that question.
No.
I'm still trying to find out why. But
that was the biggest selling Resident Evil ever up until the new one came out.
Well,
it was like
goes to show, doesn't it? It's a name which sells it. Whether the game's any good or not is another thing altogether. But no one says yes to that question, so I shall keep asking. Right. So Resident Evil 1 game I played not a lot of, but for fear of having a heart attack at the age of 22 whenever it came out. What's coming around the corner next? Let's move on to the third game on your list, and one which I can safely say I've played and enjoyed. And Mrs. Bear's played and enjoyed as well because she quite liked these sort of games. She got very into the first one, that's for sure. And again, I don't know. This was just, I would say it was completely different, but it took another genre which was very popular before it and brought it into the next generation. And again, we talk about leaping from one to another. Although it's not the same series, there was definitely, you can see where this was come from and what we end up with. So your third game on your list
is Uncharted 2.
Uncharted 2. Now, when I said that, I'm thinking Tomb Raider from the PlayStation 1, and here we are, 10, 12 years, 15 years later with PlayStation 3, Uncharted 2. And that's why I'm thinking there's a jump between one and the other.
It could have quite easily been Tomb Raider 2. Yeah, it could have quite easily been Tomb Raider 2 I chose for this. They are basically the same game with different characters and different destinations, aren't they? I was really torn whether to choose Uncharted 2 or Tomb Raider 2. It was between them, but I just love Nathan Drake as a character. He's like, for me, he's the kind of like bloke every bloke wants to be and every woman wants to be with. And, who doesn't want to play is that? Playing video games is meant to be about getting away from the real world and playing you as the character you've always wanted to be, or
Absolutely.
And no one does it better than Nathan Drake. He's witty, he's charismatic, he's a ladies' man. He's just he's what I want to be.
I mean, this series of games on the PlayStation 3, they're just so iconic for the system. I mean, you have a PlayStation 3. I mean, you've picked two here, but I mean, all three of them, they're so cheap to pick up as well. If you've got a PlayStation, you need these in your collection, don't you?
You could pick up all 3 of them games for under £10.
Mm.
It's
And you probably get the steel books as well. There's a couple of steel
you
book
would.
versions, yeah.
And you'll get I think the first one averages about 88%, but then number 2 and number 3 are 95% plus on Metacritic average, and you're picking that up for £2.50. It's just ridiculous, isn't it?
It is absolutely stupid. I quite like the first game. I remember being blown away by that when I first saw it, and I thought, this is, modern generation console and a big telly in full HD. It looks fantastic, sounds brilliant. The voice acting is pretty good for a game as well. We talk about Resident Evil, where the voice acting, let's be honest with you, it wasn't great. But it's the whole package. I mean, I know we're talking about the second game here, but the whole series all the way through looks great, sounds great, plays great.
Yeah. What more do you want? It's you're living out your fantasies of being Indiana Jones, aren't you?
And for those of us who grew up watching that, we that was a massive part of our childhood. We wanted to be a Tomb Raider as such and go on these exciting adventures, and that took you right back to watching those films in the 1980s. It was just great.
Or even maybe a Michael Douglas and Romance in the Stone, you never know.
Yeah, or not so much the Jewel in the Nile, but the Romance in the Stone. Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, it's just talking about Indiana Jones, and then like the likes of the Goonies and stuff from the 80s. They're just fun adventures, just getting, and that's what Uncharted is. It's just a fun adventure, isn't it? It's like a summer blockbuster.
It's got that big time feel to it.
Yeah,
it's like an event. We mentioned experiences, but this is like you're playing an event.
Yeah.
Did the second one start on a boat, or was that the first one?
No, so the first one started on a boat. The second one starts you climbing the train, which you then come full circle with, and halfway through you climb the train the opposite way.
That's right. Yes, I remember now. Yeah.
So that started off like a James Bond film, like bang straight into the action. This is our game. It's in your face, and this is what you're going to experience, and it's just going to get better and better and better. And then it comes full circle, and you've spent 5 hours to get to that train again. When you're climbing it, and it's like, wow, I'm back where I started. It's just absolutely fantastic.
Because all James Bond films start with a big stunt, don't they? So it started exactly the same way. Any reason why you picked the second game over the other two?
So the first one, I really enjoyed it, but then the second one, I think they improved the controls slightly. They added in I'm not big for multiplayer. I'm not one for going online and playing Call of Duty and stuff like that. It's just not. I like I said, I like a solo adventure and getting lost in my own little world. But they brought in it like a couch co-op thing, but you could do it online. So when I used to be based in Plymouth, and my brother was up in Newcastle, so you could play certain levels together. It's like he could be Chloe and I'd be Nathan, and I've got fond memories of playing that. And I just think it's the better story as well. I think the third one, they took the storytelling a bit too far with a lot of walking, to get the story. When you start off and you're playing as young Nathan, you're spending like 20 minutes, half an hour just walking slowly and listening to the story. Like, I like the story, but it's still a game at the end of the day.
Yeah.
The fourth one, I really enjoyed that as well. And have you played the fourth one yet?
No, not played the fourth one.
I've got a spare copy. I'll fire that down to you because you need to play it. It's absolutely amazing.
Oh, thank you, mate.
But the story comes full circle and it ends just absolutely like perfect, to the point where I never want another Uncharted game, even though I love it, because it's just wrapped it up, perfectly. Them 4 games.
That's what you want. It's the same with when we talk about film. I know one of your big passions is films anyway, but it's a series of films you want it to wrap up and finish, or a TV series to wrap up and finish, and that's it. So there's no need for another one to come along. So from what you're saying there, this is exactly the same sort of thing, which is great because that's what you want. I mean, it would be a shame would it be a shame if they didn't make any more, or has that time passed now? Or, as you say, is it the right place to leave it and say, that's it, I don't want to see any more? Would you buy another one if they brought another one out?
I'd still buy it, That's the thing. I'd stood by it. They did the spin-off where they used Chloe from number 2, the Australian or New Zealand girl.
Yeah.
I can't remember. And there's a girl in the 4th one. They used them too, and it was a spin-off. It was only about 10 hours long. It wasn't like a full Uncharted experience. It was a really, really good DLC. But it told their story and it didn't involve Nathan, and it was really, really good. So if they could do it in the same universe but use different characters, I'd be happy with that. But I just don't want Nathan's story. Like I said, it's told for me. You don't need to keep going on and just cashing in because of the name, then ruining the franchise.
You don't want another Kingdom of the Crystal Skull on your hand.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
They're filming the new one around me. It's not far from me, actually.
I know they've been filming it. Oh, right. So it's not doing a cameo.
Only about 10 miles from my house.
Yeah. You're not doing a cameo in it at all?
They did ask us, but I said I'm doing Desert Eye of the Disc, so I couldn't.
Oh, they'd have paid you. I'm not paying you for doing this. So that's what it is. So you got a lot more out of it than going on here. But Harrison, I don't know why they keep making it. I wish they'd just left that alone. I really do. 3 was enough.
3 was my favourite out of all of them, and it was just the perfect way to end, wasn't it?
I saw the second one in the cinema, which I remember. What told you? 86, wasn't it? Temple of Doom. Was it 84, wasn't it? I think. No. First one was 81, 84, the second film, I think it was. And I saw that in the cinema.
I think Last Crusade was 89, wasn't it? It was towards the end of the 80s.
Yeah, but the second one really sort of like 9-10 years old at the cinema. That was quite an unnerving experience. But I don't know. I still like. I think all 3 of them are really good.
Yeah,
I don't think there's not a bad film amongst the 3 of them, to be honest. But you usually find a dip in quality. I used to hate Back to the Future 2. Saw that in the cinema. I used to hate that film, but now it's probably my favourite one of the 3. Don't know why. Just
I think a lot of people are like that, aren't they? A lot of people would say it too.
Because everyone said at the time it was a convoluted mess. It kept going back and forth, and you sort of end up being really, really confused. But when years later you sit down and watch it, I think it's probably the better one of the 3, to be honest. But there we go.
You had that meme, didn't you, from a couple of years ago? We are now living in Back to the Future too.
Yes, yeah, the year 2015. That was it. Yeah, and none of the things had happened. We hadn't got anything. We haven't even got the hologram jaws on the front of the cinema.
No,
that'll be good. That'll be good. Right then, so we'll step away from your game list. We've done 3 of those. We'll come back to the 3 shortly. Let's jump back to your gaming history. And so we left the Mega Drive, Amiga 600. Where did we go after that then?
So I'd never heard of Sony PlayStation until quite close to the run up to Christmas, when my mum was asking us what I wanted. And in my mind, I was always going to say, I want the Sega Saturn, the next console I want. I've just had the Mega Drive. I love Sega. I want the Sega Saturn. And then the adverts started coming out from PlayStation. And again, it felt like the Mega Drive did back in the early 90s, in the mid 90s with PlayStation. It was like, this is the attitude, this is the cool new system, this is like the one that's just going to blow out all the competition away. And the PlayStation didn't it? The PlayStation 1, it was untouchable.
Absolutely. I had this conversation on a previous episode where we talked about the fact that Sony bought his console. Sony never made a successful entry into video gaming at all. Panasonic and had done the 3DO, and that had failed. Philips and the CDI, that had failed. Everyone knew it was Sega and Nintendo territory. In come Sony and completely changed the landscape.
They worked with Nintendo quite a bit, though, didn't they? Because they were going to do the Super Nintendo or the next Nintendo console with the CD. So I think they'd had some groundwork in the gaming market, but
that's right. That's right. It was going to be a co-project, but it was never going to be a standalone item until they decided it was, something happened, and that's how we got the PlayStation.
But Sony as a company, so they brought the Walkman out, didn't they? And that revolutionized how people listen to music, and it changed the world, didn't it? The Walkman.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
Then they were like at the forefront of CDs and then forefront of Blu-rays. So they're always at the forefront and the pushing edge of whatever they seem to put there. Right, we're going to go in this direction now, and they seem to be the number one guys. For me, they still are. I'm a Sony pony, and I'm proud, and that'll never change.
Yeah, but it was other areas of entertainment. Well, you mentioned CDs, Walkmans, televisions, Sony televisions, always quality. I've still got an old Sony from 2005. Works absolutely fine, brilliant.
Yeah.
Modern Sonys, I've got to be fair, aren't great, and I know that's from the industry I'm in. They're not as well made as they used to be. But yeah, you're absolutely right. You associate them with quality, but video games, it just didn't seem to make any sense. I mean,
well, that's what put me off. That's why I knew Mega Drive was good. So why would I not go for the Saturn? But then, like I said, these adverts started coming out, and you just saw like Wipeout, just the zooming across the screen and images of like what was Lara Croft and stuff like that, and it was like, and I need this system. It's just like it just looks absolutely amazing. And I don't know about the Saturn, but the PlayStation, you could play CDs on it. I don't know if you could with the Saturn or not, but that was like another big selling point for me as well.
I don't think you could do. You could also play VCDs in the PlayStation, I believe, as well, if you got an adapter.
Oh, could I didn't know that.
I think you could have done that. That might be me talking bollocks, but I'm pretty sure that there was CDs was a thing most people knew about, but I think there was a way you could play VCD. He was able to do full motion video, wasn't it? So I'd have thought, some games I bought there I rented the very first Star Wars: The Phantom Menace, and it got the full video for the trailer for the film on it. So it had the capability of doing that, but I'm not sure if you could do or not. Don't know.
But that Sony have always been very clever with that. So you could get the music CDs on the PlayStation 1, the PlayStation 2, the Dreamcast, you couldn't get the DVDs, but it was a built-in DVD player. And then the PlayStation 3 was Blu-ray, which Xbox wasn't. So people aren't just buying it for the games. They're like, well, that's my new Blu-ray player. I don't have to go and spend £400 on one when I can buy a PlayStation for $300 and buy games for it. Yeah. Same with the DVD player, when that came out.
Yeah, that was a big selling point for me on the PlayStation 3. They got the Blu-ray player inside it. That was the tipping point. It's a 360 or that. No, that's we're getting that and that for the price. That's what we're going to get, and that's what we did.
Do you know what wins the war for? Well, it won't now because physical media like DVDs are dying out. But what's always won the war for VHS over what was it, Betamax or Betamax?
Betamax, yes.
Betamax, and then Blu-ray over HD, like DVDs. It's the porn industry. It's whichever one they choose to go down. It's true. It's true. Whichever one they choose to go down, that's the biggest selling DVDs. Porn are the biggest selling DVDs or Blu-rays as they are now. So that's whatever they choose. We're going to put all our films on that. That's what wins out. So that's what beat HD, and that's why VHS beat Betamax.
And they were saying all the film studios throwing their weight behind Blu-ray rather than HD DVD at the time. No, it wasn't. It was the porn industry.
Yeah, it was Debbie Does Dallas. It was nothing to do with it.
But mind you, have you ever seen a Betamax video?
I've never, no.
I mean, giant, great square type things. VHS, completely different to VHS tapes. Utterly different. You can see why it failed. You get 3 on a shelf. They were that big. Just absolutely useless things. But no, it's the PlayStation 1 was not quite the multimedia center, but again, you could buy one of those and you got a CD player as well,
which was a big deal in the mid-90s, getting a CD player, because they were still used. That's how you still went to the shops and bought the new singles. I did anyway. My Hanson CDs or my Westlife CDs, as you know.
yeah. We know all about that. Just you and your Westlife stuff, that's for sure. But yeah, so you're getting a complete entertainment system, and just so many. I mean, the library for the PlayStation when it ended up was absolutely massive. The cases were great. Well, I say the cases were great. They have a tendency to crack, but they just look fantastic on the shelf as well.
They do look good, but they're hard to get a good one now. They do tend to come cracked, especially if they're getting put in the post.
Yeah, it's difficult to find good quality cases, but if you can do, it's great to get hold of. And one of those which is in good condition is absolute fine. It opens up nice, decent manual in it, put together. Yeah, just great. Do you regret not getting a Saturn?
I had the PlayStation. I was happy with it. I was playing Metal Gear Solid, Resident Evil, Silent Hills, and stuff like that. There was a few games, obviously, because the magazines I used to get computer and video games. And
CMVG.
I used to get that and Games Master. So it showed you all the different systems in them, didn't it? Not just like this is a PlayStation magazine. You're only going to see that. Yeah. So I remember they had a game called Worldwide Soccer 97 for the Saturn. And I got FIFA 97, but I remember on that you could do that trick, where you flick the ball over the back of your head and then you catch it. They could do that, and I was like, I just want that because of that. Virtua, I always liked the look of Virtua Cop. I always thought that looked cooler than Time Crisis, but I don't regret it because I've got every single PlayStation out now, including the handhelds, and I love it. I'm a Sony fanboy, and like, I'm not ashamed to admit it. So no, I don't regret it.
No. Well, I know some people when they say switch allegiances, but at that point you've been pretty much Sega focused, as you said, and that was where your intention lay at the time. So to get a completely different system, but compared to where you are now, I was Nintendo before Mega Drive, so it wasn't like I hadn't had a Master System then a Mega Drive. So it wasn't I was just a fickle kid, and I just wanted the next one. It's a bit different now. Yeah, there's not much more we can say about the PlayStation when that hasn't been said already. Just a great system. You a fan of were you a fan of the slim down PS1?
I've got one now, but I never had it at the time. The good thing about it is you could get the LCD screen, couldn't you? And you could play it all as one. That was quite a cool feature. But I had the original PlayStation. It wasn't until I started collecting again I picked up the PS1 because it was about £15, and I thought, yeah, it's part of the PlayStation like history, so I'll add it to the collection.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. I prefer the original grey one, to be honest with you. I think it's just
very iconic, isn't it?
It is. It's a 90s icon. It's 90s pop culture icon. You could show people a picture of that, and I would say 8 or 9 out of 10 people would tell you exactly what it was.
It's like the Coca-Cola sign or something like that, isn't it? It's that image is,
and it's a brand now as well. You wouldn't have thought at the time. Here we are, 25 years later. It spawned 4 console sequels. I'm guessing it's the leading computer console.
Sony's the biggest selling, yeah.
It is the biggest selling, isn't it? I'm struggling for the words there. Sorry, but yeah, to go from nothing 25 years ago to now, and you think what's happened to Sega in that time?
Yeah,
it's just it's you wouldn't have thought it. As you said quite rightly back then, it would never have happened. You thought, well, 25 years time we're going to be talking to PlayStation 5 and Sega haven't bought a console out for 20 years. Huh? Would have been impossible to think that then. But there we go.
You close your eyes and you close your eyes and think, and you can still hear that start-up screen for the PlayStation 1.
Yeah,
it's it's just stuck in your brain, isn't it?
That's right. So much good things about it. So after the PlayStation 1, where did you go after that?
So I had these at the same time, the PlayStation 1 and the Nintendo 64. So as I was saying earlier, I was the eldest grandchild on both sides. So I was my nana. I was like her golden boy. I'd stay at my nana's all the time, and I could do no wrong, even though I was a little bugger. And she had the Littlewoods catalogue, and I had a paper round at the time. So I says, Nana, I've worked out I get £8 a week for my paper round, and it's £5.20 something to get a Nintendo 64 per week. So if I give you that, can I get it out of the catalogue? And obviously she's like, no, And I'm giving her the eyes and stuff like that. And she eventually said yes and let us order it. I think I paid maybe 3 weeks, and then my nana just, she just paid it off. And if your granddad asks, you're still giving us the money, and don't tell any of the other grandkids and stuff like that. But I only had the one game.
Oh, what was that one?
GoldenEye. That was the reason I got the system.
Yeah. Again, it's one of these consoles which I surprisingly splits people. A lot of people really hate it. We've mentioned him before. He's the guy over my shoulder absolutely hates it. But some people love it. And I played on an awful lot when I was young. My mates had them, so we spent a lot of time playing things like GoldenEye and Mario Kart and all that. And it's only when I got one years later. Again, one of the systems I wanted to get. I think it was when I first started collecting retro systems. It was the first one I got, a car boot sale for $5, just loose on its own for $5 with a controller. A bargain, that is. I can remember how much they go for now. And that was just the grey one. But as soon as I got it and started collecting games for it, I thought, yeah, this is something I'm really glad I got this, because at the time I thought I really want one. I didn't get one because I had a PlayStation 1 at the time, so I didn't have a need to get a Nintendo 64. But I like it. I do love the system.
It's not my favorite. I think it's a really great system. It's not my favorite of all time, but if you think what it's done for consoles, it revolutionized the 3D platformer, the 3D game with Mario 64. It revolutionized shooters on consoles with GoldenEye, and it revolutionized action adventures with Zelda Ocarina of Time, the lock-on mechanic, the big open world. So anyone who says it's a bad console, just look at every game you're playing now. Probably owes a bit of debt to what the N64 did with its games. That's how I look at it.
You're absolutely right. Two of those games you mentioned there, Mario, GoldenEye and Mario Kart, which I might mention, multiplayer. You know, I don't think you got obviously PlayStation 1 had the four. You had the ability to put 4 players on that, but the N64 actually came with 4 controller ports on the front.
Yeah.
So for me, that really started the delving into the possibilities of the party game, the multi game. And also, we spent hours playing games like that against each other. Some with more success than others, but it was just great fun getting people, 3 of your mates around and playing through for a few hours, or in some cases all night, just those games.
Playing online, talking to people on headsets is not the same as you watching your friend because he's watching your screen and you're giving him elbows and you're not going to beat that. You'll never beat that.
No, you're right. You can, it's a completely different way of doing it, and in a way, it's much more fun. You can put a game on, get 3 or 4 people around, and you can't capture that by playing online. And there's limited experience I have doing that. It just isn't the same. Because
you're completely right. It's when you get older as well, because I was starting to get to the age where I'm starting to have a bit of pop on a weekend and stuff like that with the N64 and stuff. So you're just sitting around and having a couple of cans and just playing GoldenEye together, and before you go out on a night time and stuff, you can't. You're not going to sit down now and put your headset on and play Call of Duty, then go meet your friends in the pub. Like, it's just a different world, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, we used to do that in reverse. We sort of go to the pub first, then come back. And I remember, I think a friend of mine had a house. He was renting a house with a mate and his sister, and they had an N64 downstairs. So there'll be a few of us downstairs playing GoldenEye, and then there's a phone. Someone's interrupted us with a phone. Oh, it's all right. Oh,
it's your friend asking if you want to play GoldenEye.
It has to be. I'll keep talking. Someone will answer it. There we go. That's it. It's the mother-in-law. Typically, I think the mother-in-law rings up during the middle of a recording anyway. So we'd have N64 downstairs, and then there'll be another N64 upstairs. There'll be someone playing FIFA upstairs or ISS, and there'll be other ones downstairs playing GoldenEye. And yeah, just great times. Great times.
Yeah, it's a shame.
Was that the only game you had for the system altogether? Did you get any more? Or
I had that. I had ISS. Which was like the best football game I'd ever played at the time. It just looked absolutely amazing, didn't it?
Yeah.
And my friend had Mario Kart 64, and he had Mario 64. I used to lend them off him because you would just lend games off your friends, wouldn't you? Like, he didn't have GoldenEye, so I'd give him GoldenEye for the weekend, and he'd give us Mario 64 for the weekend, and then you had the weekend to beat it before Monday, and you had to give him it back at school.
Mario 64 was a game I watched people play, and I thought, I really want to play that. And when I did play it years later, I thought, yeah, I was right. It really is a good game. Absolutely. And he said something completely different to what we had back then.
Well, I played a lot more on the PlayStation because you could get it chipped, and then you could get the games for £5. The N64, you couldn't do that. So it was birthdays and Christmases that you'd have to wait to get a game. I didn't just get a game randomly for no reason.
No. Well, it's going back again to the micro days, isn't it? And people copying games, and you can't chip a cartridge console. It's very difficult to do so. It's pretty much impossible. But I don't know. I just like the cartridge, the chunky cartridges, and I mentioned the PlayStation box is looking very nice. But yeah, just the big grey cartridges clunking, then turn it on straight away, and you're up and running. And I love the fact that when everybody was moving towards the CD-based systems, Nintendo was still putting out cartridges.
I would say, though, that generation, so the PlayStation 1, N64, and the Saturn, it's probably the generation that's aged the worst since the 8-bit.
Yes.
I think you put a 16-bit game on now, and it still looks good, on the Mega Drive and the Super Nintendo, because of, obviously, the art style they've went for. But you put some of the PlayStation 1 games on, which were technically more advanced than the Mega Drive, but they do look very dark and grey, and it was a learning generation for what we're going to get with the next consoles, wasn't it?
That's right. And the N64 suffers from a lot of fogging and
the
polygons, and yes, some of the games look absolutely atrocious, but they can still they still play well. I mean, they don't deteriorate because they don't look so good. It's just that whereas 25 years ago it might be aesthetically pleasing you on the eye, now it's the equivalent of having your eyes poked out with large sticks. You'd rather not look at it. Yeah. You just rather just get on and play it and ignore what it looks like.
But I think coming from us, where we know when these games come out, if you showed maybe my nephew, like I said, he's 10, 12, something like that, you showed him, I don't know, Splatterhouse 2 on the Mega Drive, or a really blocky, grey-looking, say, Siphon Filter on the PlayStation 1, he wouldn't be able to tell you that they were from different generations of consoles, because Splatterhouse 2 probably looks visually better, just to look at like that, arguing.
Yeah. That's a good point. That's a very good point to make, and interesting to see what people's opinions are on that. It gets a lot of stick, that era, because of how the games look now, but I think that does tend to overlook some of the quality of the gameplay. And I said all the way through, it doesn't care what a game looks like, as long as it plays well, it's all right.
Yeah,
I've always been that opinion. Right, so from the N64, we then moved to a system that I owned, and I always say this, the only system I ever owned from day one. And I regret not giving it a bit more time, to be fair, but your choice, your next console was?
It was PlayStation 2, my next one, but I did have other ones as well around that time.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the little square one.
The little purple box.
The little purple box. Yeah, we'll talk about the PlayStation 2 when we come back to this to finish off. But so I want to get all your PlayStation ones done in one bit. But yeah, we're talking about.
Sorry.
No, that's right. The little purple cube we were talking about.
Quite simply, a game I talked about before, Resident Evil. I got the GameCube for it. Well, at the time, I thought all the Resident Evil games were going to be exclusive to the GameCube. It had Resident Evil 4 coming out on it. It had the remake of Resident Evil 1 coming out on it. And then obviously you've got all your Zeldas and your Marios that were going to come out, but it was mainly for Resident Evil that I bought the GameCube.
What your opinions of the system? Because I probably mistreated it. I probably didn't give it the love it needed at the time, and I regret that now, because I do quite enjoy playing on it. It's
one of I've heard people slag it off, but it's one of my favorite controllers. I think it feels really, really good in your hands. I love it.
I don't know how anybody could suck that controller off. I absolutely love that controller for it.
I'm thinking about buying the Switch. They've got one for the Switch. I'm honestly thinking about getting it for the Switch. I think it's an amazing controller. I'm pretty sure the GameCube it didn't look it, but I'm sure it was more powerful than the PlayStation 2 for games as well. But it didn't have that DVD player, though, did it?
I don't know about that, but yeah. But what I like about it is the fact it was a
games console.
It was designed for a game. That was it. That you want to go and play CDs or DVDs or whatever, go and buy an Xbox or a PlayStation 2. You want to play games, this is what you want to buy.
The way it looked, like with Nintendo, though, they hadn't. I suppose they're still in it to a way now, but we're both wrestling fans, aren't we?
We are indeed, yeah.
The late 90s, early 90s, you're still in that Attitude Era, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
So PlayStation 2, you're getting games like Grand Theft Auto, Twisted Metal Black, and all these shooting games coming out. And Nintendo are still knocking out like Mario games. For a lad in his late teens, early 20s, it was like, well, I'm going PlayStation because I'm a man now and I want to play Attitude games. I've grew out of the kid games. And I think that's a lot of people around our age might have passed on the GameCube because of that. But there is some really good first-party games on there. One of the best horror games of all time, Eternal Darkness, is a GameCube exclusive. It is, yeah. And if you've not played that and you're a horror fan, you're really missing out.
I remember reading about that one at the time. I thought, I like the sound of it, but I don't think I could play it. Because being the wimp that I am, I don't think I don't think I'll be able to go to bed with the lights turned off ever again. But yeah, you're right. I do agree with that point of view. If you wanted more adults, probably the wrong word, but more mature games, then you were going to go and play on one of the systems. I mean, yeah, like the Wii, there were adult titles, mature titles on the Wii. But yeah, the focus on the GameCube, obviously Nintendo, it's going to be Yoshi, Mario, it's going to be, you've got Super Monkey Ball on there as well, which is a fantastic game in itself. But that's the sort of thing you expect to get on there, and that's what there was a lot of. But you said Resident Evil 4, the Resident Evil 1 remake, Eternal Darkness, completely different. The Metroid games were not quite as they're Super Nintendo NES comparisons when the Metroid Prime, wasn't it? I think it was on the Cube. Is that right?
That was my first. Yeah, it was Metroid Prime's the first one I ever played. I didn't know that it used to be like a 2D, like side-scrolling map game.
Right, yeah. Oh no, I knew about it previously, but that was my first time I actually played a Metroid game, and I did enjoy playing those. But yeah, it's a great little system from the tiny little disc, the tiny little cube, the fact you can carry it around, you take it anywhere. The controller was great. But the problem for me was it just didn't have that software to start with. There wasn't the games that would grab me. And it's only been in recent years that I've come to appreciate the GameCube library more. And I'm lucky enough to actually have some of the sort of more expensive titles like Mario Sunshine, Luigi's Mansion, Mario Party 5, Double Dash, which I think Double Dash was a game which actually converted me into being a Mario Kart fan as opposed to actually hating the sight of any Mario Kart game to that point. I used to hate that game until Double Dash. And I thought, this is really good. Some people love Double Dash. A lot of people don't. I think it's probably people's least favourite game along with 64 as their least favourite Mario Kart game. But I actually quite enjoy both of those games. I hate the first one.
Diddy Kong was always my favourite on the N64 kart-wise. I love Diddy Kong.
Again, but that's got two. You can play it as a straightforward racing game where you've got the story mode as well, I think. Is that right? Yeah. And it's all, I've played that for years, but completely different. Yeah, I prefer playing that to Mario Kart 64 at the time. Now I don't mind either of them. But the GameCube is brilliant. I really do love it.
Yeah, it's for me. I just love the controller. I keep going on about it. It's one of the best controllers. Like in your hand, it just feels absolutely great.
Was that the one that I remember reading at the time? I don't know if it was true or not. It might have been a bloody April Fool knowing me, but the controller was built so it would not make your hands sweat, or there was something within the plastic that would not give you that sweaty feeling if you're playing too long. That the controller would slip about, or you feel a bit clammy playing it.
I've never heard that. To be honest,
I've probably just made that up. I'm sure I read that somewhere. I remember there was some sort of new technology in there to sort of stop your palms sweating while you're playing.
One thing with the Switch carts and stuff like that, they've got like something in it to give it a nasty taste, so kids don't put it in their mouth.
I've yet to try one of those. You're sort of like half intrigued. Do I find a really cheap Switch game and just give it a good, see how it tastes? I don't know what it's going to taste like. Yeah, I'm going to buy Crash Bandicoot Trilogy and give it a good licking.
It's licked me a few times, that game.
Yeah, it has me as well. Yeah, that's for sure. I wonder what it would take. I don't know. I'm intrigued now. I didn't know that. Did they do that with DS, or was it just the Switch ones that came out, or did they do it with Switch because of what happened with DS? To be honest.
Yeah, I just know they did with the Switch. One of my mates told us. It's one of those things you don't know whether it's true or not. Whether he's just trying to get you to put one in.
It is. If anybody's licked any Switch games, let us know in the comments below. And
I'm sure Steve Cooper's World licked a few Switch games.
Well, you've got enough Switch games, haven't you?
About 80, I think.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, well, I'm sure there's one you don't like as much as the others.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah, I'll leave that with you. I'm not going to see if we're going to go down that route. Okay, so yeah, big fans of the GameCube pair of us by the sound of it. We'll come back to your gaming history in a bit. We'll get on to these other games as well, because obviously we've gone past 2 hours already. So I'm just trying to not hurrying you along. Don't get me wrong, not hurrying you along, but time is a ticking. Right, so your next game off your 6 games on the desert island, I think it's the most recent game on your list.
Yes, and it's I literally changed it from what I wrote something different down on the paper. That I changed it when I've sent it to you. So initially I'd went for Sonic 2, but I've changed it to Streets of Rage 4.
It's on the PlayStation 4, yeah.
Yeah, PlayStation 4.
Okay.
So Silent Hill, Streets of Rage 2.
Silent Hill of Rage, yeah.
Yeah, it makes me feel like that. So Streets of Rage 2, it was one of my favorite. Like, anyone who's played it, I would say 99% of people would say it's how great of a game it is. The soundtrack, the bad guys you fight, the characters you play as, Blaze and Axel, they're just really iconic, especially for that time. If you had a Mega Drive, you had played Streets of Rage or the second one. And then I heard they're bringing the 4th one out. And like a lot of people, I'm sure I was like, oh, please don't be bad. Please don't be bad, because I don't want it to... Going back to the Uncharted we're talking about before, you don't want the legacy to be ruined, because some new people might have only ever played Streets of Rage 4 and it could be terrible, and they're not going to appreciate how good the older ones were, like, if you know what I mean. So, but then it came out and it was just like, this is everything I've wanted since I played Streets of Rage 2, and it was absolutely perfect. Beat 'em up. I just loved it.
I played. A friend of mine lent me his copy of Streets of Rage on the Mega Drive, and I just remember the music starting up and that game to start with was just fantastic. I've never been a massive Streets of Rage fan. I'm not saying this to be an arse, but I enjoy playing it, but I just get a bit bored with it after a while. I'm not sure whether that's just me, but when they announced the 4th one, I was like, well, I was probably like you, so well, don't tarnish the reputation of the other games because they're very highly regarded. But I didn't get the excitement that everybody else was showing at the time to go out and pre-order it, or get a copy of the limited run version that came out, or download it, or what have you. It sort of passed me by a bit. I thought, well, I don't need that game in my life to play it. I enjoy playing the other ones, but not a real favourite for me, I'm afraid.
So I'm like that. Double Dragon gets praised, and I can't stand Double Dragon. So I'm very much like that with you.
Yeah, you see, I played a lot of Double Dragon when I was younger, so I prefer that over Streets of Rage? Yes, I would do. Not by much. I mean, but I do like Double Dragon.
See, I didn't play Double Dragon after Streets of Rage, so it was a big back step going to Double Dragon for me after playing Streets of Rage.
I can understand, yeah.
But the fourth one, there's so much replayability. You can unlock the characters from 1, 2, 3, all the secret characters. In the end, I think you've got like 8 different characters, and they all play different or they look different, and you can just run through it. There's so many different levels of like toughness you want to go through. There's scores. It's got that like amazing soundtrack that Streets of Rage is known for. There's little Easter eggs hidden in there. I just think it's absolutely perfect. Beat 'em up. Arcade game you can just chuck on whenever and just kill a couple hours, and that's what I want on the island. Just trying to kill time.
Yeah, I know a lot of people love the remake, and it went down so well when it first came out. I don't think I've never seen too many people say bad things about it, only positive, which I think, again, in these situations when you're remastering or rebooting something, it's a very rare thing to happen. That.
Yeah, you're normally going to upset someone who's like, well, I preferred that little mechanic and you've changed it. You're always going to get that. But like you, I've not heard anyone say anything bad about Streets of Rage 4.
One of those that did it justice, I suppose. And if it's nice, I may get around to playing it one day. I don't know, but
the Ultimate Edition comes out the end of September with all the DLC.
Okay. Well, I'll have to see about that one. I've got to. Like I said, it's I don't know. It's one of the. It's a series I remember very well, but I don't know. I'm off. You do such a good job selling this. You really do. I was thinking, I might buy that now. Oh, dear me.
They're making the guys behind that are doing the Turtles game as well. You know, like Turtles in Time and Hyperstone Heist.
Oh, yes, yeah.
They're the guys doing that hopefully comes out in around November time.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
And there's talk of them doing Golden Axe as well.
Now see, that I probably would be interested in, because I used to love Golden Axe on the arcade, on the home system, Golden Axe 2 on the Mega Drive. I used to have that, play it all the way through. And I got the Sega Classics collection on the PlayStation 2, where they sort of reimagined or redid some of their old arcade games.
Yeah,
they completely bollocksed up Golden Axe. I don't know why they did it.
You haven't played Axe Battler or whatever it's called, have you, on the PS3?
Beast Rider. Is it Beast Rider?
Beast Rider. Yeah, Beast Rider. Yeah. Sorry, yeah.
No, I've not played that one because I'd heard very bad things about it. So
yes, it's awful.
Oh man, I might look gullible, but I'm not that gullible. No, but they're going to try and take Golden Axe to back what it was and give it a bit of a the Street of Rage 4 treatment, then I might be interested in that. Right. Next game on your list then. We did mention this briefly at the start, but in a completely different capacity. I think was that virtual reality, wasn't it?
Yeah. So it was a toss up between Doom and this, but I've went for Half-Life 2 over Doom, just purely for the storytelling in it. I just think it's another game that revolutionized, video games and how stories are told. From the first one, there was no cutscenes or nothing like that. It was all told by subtle little hints or hearing bits of dialogue here and being able to watch what was going on and see, what they're called, the Grey Men. Have you played the game?
Not for years, mate.
I forgot the names that I've chosen as my top 6. The guys in the suit, like just seeing them in the background and stuff like that, and trying to work out the plot.
Did you play? You must have played the original then before.
Yes, I played it on the PlayStation 2, which is its own version. It's the only port where you can actually play couch co-op. I believe the PlayStation 2 couldn't even do it on the PC.
Oh right, okay. So what was it about Half-Life 2 that you enjoy so much?
So it mixed loads of different genres together. So you had like the driving sections. Obviously, it's a first-person shooter at heart with a really good story. But out of every game I've played, it's possibly got the best horror level in video games like you'll ever play, and it's not a horror game. So you get like the physics gun, like where you can pick stuff up and throw it at enemies, and that's all you've got. So you're picking up anything that you can find in like the surrounding areas to flick at the enemies. You've got no pistol, and you've got like these creatures coming out, aliens coming at you. And it was just like really like eerie, and like the atmosphere was just absolutely amazing. I just, and it felt like I was living out War of the Worlds,
Right.
with the aliens coming in.
Yeah. That's interesting. Interesting
It's
way.
still, I played it last year, and looks wise, it still looks like a really good game even to today. It still holds up, and it's about 15 years old now, probably.
I would say
2004, maybe.
Yeah, probably getting close to 20 rather than 15. I think. The time flies, doesn't it?
Jesus.
Did they make a film of Half-Life, or were they thinking of making one at one point?
They never made one.
They never made one.
I don't know.
I'm sure they were talking about possibly doing something like that. Yeah, not one I know an awful lot about. I know the series, and I think again years and years ago probably played the first one, but don't know anything about the second one at all. This on a PlayStation 3, is that right?
Yeah, so it was part of the Orange Box. So it originally came out on the PC. The original Xbox got Half-Life 2, but then the PS3 and the 360 got the Orange Box. So you got Half-Life 2 and the 2 episodes, Team Fortress, and the original Portal all in one package. Imagine getting like all them games for 40 quid.
Oh man, I mean, I remember seeing that at the time and thinking, God, that's such good value to get those games in that pack. And even now, when you pick it up for it's about £5 second hand, something like that, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not expensive.
It's not expensive at all. It's a Portal. I mean, what a game that is. Oh man, I think did I have that one? I might have had Portal 2 at some point. I'm pretty sure, but first one just I do like my puzzle games, and that was just great fun. Never played Team Fortress. You played that one much?
I played it a little bit, but again, I'm not one for going online, so I didn't really put much time in it. But no. Portal, the best thing about that, like any good puzzle game, for me, the puzzles have got to be just hard enough that you get them right, that you can get them right, and think that you're really clever when they're not that difficult, but they make you feel like they are. And that's Portal summed up, isn't it?
Yeah, I completely agree with that. You end up feeling slightly superior when in actuality you're not actually that clever at all. It's just,
exactly. Yeah.
the feeling of self-importance you get afterwards. I should go and apply for Mensa now after playing that. And then you realise exactly how thick you are really. But no, games like that are really good. Just it was complete. It was a bit different to anything else puzzle-wise at the time, anyway. There were quite a bit of the old grey matter there, but yeah.
We were used to games like Columns and Tetris, weren't we?
Yeah.
And then Portal, and it's just completely different.
Yeah, there's nothing really like that. Had there been any more Half-Life games, or was it the second one?
So there's the running joke that Valve never do a third game. So the Left 4 Dead, there's only 2 of them. Half-Life, there's only 2 of them, not including the episodes. So it's like a running joke. Half-Life will never do a third game of anything.
Ah, right. Because I'm sort of thinking, Left 4 Dead 4 might be confusing because you think there's something coming out else on the end of that. The Left 4 Dead, Left 4 Dead 2, Left 4 Dead 3, Left 4 Dead 4, Left 4 Dead 4 what? Good.
I've never played them, to be honest.
I've got. I think the second one I've got somewhere, but again. For somebody who hates horror games, I've got an awful lot of horror games lurking in my collection. I got the Evil Within as well. The only reason I bought that because it would come in the limited edition pack with the lenticular cover. But when I bought that, the guy in Cash Converters said, "This is a sort of game that you play with the lights on, and you invite your neighbours over to keep you company while you're playing it." And I thought, right, well, that's never going to get played. But this is a really nice copy with all the limited edition stuff, so I'll just put it in my collection and keep it there.
It's the director of Resident Evil 1.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. He wanted to go back to the roots of like survival horror, because we'd had Resident Evil 5 and 6, and they were more going towards action. So that's why I got Evil Within.
Ah, brilliant. That's interesting. I probably still won't play it, but I'll keep hold of it anyway. Right then, so that's the 5th game on your desert island list. This is your last game. And a game I haven't got the pockets to afford something like this one. So I'm gonna have to go off. I'll have to go off your opinion on this one, mate, because this is an insanely expensive game to get hold of now for some reason.
It's about £450, I think now.
£450, and you want to take it to
the roundabout there. The last time I looked, I haven't got this physical. I tell you, a man who was just getting it. He's behind David again. Behind you, he got it a couple of months ago.
Did he really?
Yeah, his wife got him as a present.
Oh, yes, she did, didn't she? Yes, I remember seeing that video. Yeah, hasn't Big Pockets Owl got this as well?
He's probably got every variant of it going, hasn't he? And he's never played it. Too busy playing Barbie games to care about decent games.
That's it. Yeah, noddy games or whatever he's got this week. Yeah, guys, I think most people guess what we're talking about, but let's put them out their misery.
Castlevania Symphony of the Night
on the PlayStation 1.
On the PlayStation 1.
The reason you're taking this with you, not because it's obviously worth bartering with if you want to get off the desert island.
Wait, I've never owned this physically on the PlayStation 1. I've had a copy of it, like a £5 chip game, but I've never owned it. But I played it on the PlayStation 1 and I remember really enjoying it. But then it came out on the digital store, so I played it on the PSP. And I was away at sea and I had no abilities to get on the internet or nothing like that to learn where am I supposed to be going, what am I supposed to be doing. So I played it as if it was a kid back in 1997 with no ability to, to check what I'm supposed to be doing. And I just got lost in this castle. I love horror stuff. So Dracula and the castle. Alucard, his son, who you play during the game, he's just an absolutely really cool character. And it made me fall in love with the Metroidvania genre, which it basically made itself. So it took the best bits of Metroid and Castlevania, which Castlevania had always been a lot more linear. You'd had a couple of games where you could choose the path you'd maybe go on, but it was pretty much left to right, wasn't it? So it took them two great franchises and just mashed them together, added a bit of RPG elements to it, and it just, again, a lot like I was saying with Dark Souls, it's made its own genre. You say, oh, that's a Metroidvania because of Symphony of the Night. Now, the last game I just beat 2 days ago was a Metroidvania. I'm still playing them and still enjoy them now, and it was because of playing Symphony of the Night for the first time.
I didn't even know about this game until a few years ago when people started mentioning how much it was going for in terms of the cost of it, and that made me want to sort of ignore it even further. I mean, I like Castlevania, the old NES ones. I can't remember what the latest Castlevania I played. I think I played one of the demos of the PlayStation 3 one, the first one that came out.
Lords of Shadow.
Yeah, and I thought that's not really a Castlevania game.
No,
doesn't remind me of Castlevania.
Them ones for me took bits of God of War and bits of Shadow of the Colossus and brought them together. It was a mash of games. It didn't feel like Castlevania or its own game. It just thought that game's popular at the minute. That game's popular at the minute. We'll take elements and call it Castlevania with a horror theme. Still good games. I still enjoyed them, but they weren't Castlevania.
No, because I prefer the pure ones. I'm Super Castlevania 4. Was it Castlevania 4? They call it, don't they? And the very first one, and
because the fourth one on the Super Nintendo was just a remake of the first from the Nintendo one, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, and then there's one on the PC Engine. Was it Rondo of Blood, wasn't it? I think on the PC Engine.
Rondo of Blood.
Yeah, which I'm completely useless at, but I really like.
It's cool.
It's good. I do like them, and I probably should have picked. I don't actually own a physical Castlevania game. I didn't got the one on the Wii. I can't remember what that was called now. Is that beat 'em up on the Wii?
Harmony of Despair or something? I don't know.
I know that. Yeah, I know. There's one on the Wii which I haven't got, which I think I passed up upon a few years back. So I wasn't going to pay £12 for it or something. I'm not sure how much it is now. It might be a bit more than that. But no, I don't actually have a physical one, but I played a few of the emulating games. And I do like them, but I don't know what's the big selling point on this one for you. If you could sort of say to somebody, this is the reason you must own this game is
the never knowing what's next. So every time you go to a new section of the castle, you don't know what the next boss is going to be. You don't know what the next monster is going to be. The save points it's very limited where you can actually save. And the only really bad thing about the game is it takes about 5 minutes from dying to then load the game back up. So it gives you more sense that you don't want to die.
Oh, good grief!
It hasn't got a continue bit. It takes you out of the game, sends you all the way back to the main menu that like the startup, and then you've got to go all the way back through it. It takes about 5 minutes to die to load up. But so you've got that sense. Well, do I go further? Because if I die, I might lose all that progress, and it's just the wonderment of like what's in that next room, and then what I love about Metroidvania is you might see somewhere that's too high for you to jump, but you know further down the line you're going to get the ability to do a double jump, and then I can come back there when I'm stronger, and I can explore that part of the castle. It's just plowing on and moving forward, and just trying to get the next ability so you can get to the next section. I just love it about Metroidvanias.
Yeah, that's good point, that one. Yeah. Best Castlevania game you've played?
I'd probably say Symphony of the Night.
Okay.
I'd say Symphony of the Night.
And in order to play it, people are going to need some very, very deep pockets, or know somebody with a copy they can borrow and look after. I mean, if you had a copy of that game, would you lend it to anybody? I wouldn't.
some good news.
Yes.
So I don't like getting digital, but for £10 you can get Rondo of Blood and Symphony of the Night on the PS4 digitally. But limited run are releasing Symphony of the Night on the PS4 and the Switch in the next few months.
Do you think that's going to lower the price of the original game then?
I don't know, because I bought Zombies Ate My Neighbours, or just Zombies in the UK for the Mega Drive, and it was £70, and it seems to be holding that value, even though they've just recently brought it out on limited run within the last few months. Okay. It hasn't dropped much.
Be interesting to keep an eye on that one, because you always wonder whether with these re-releases and remasters that the price of the original game will drop. But I suppose if you're a collector, you're going to want the original game, aren't you? I mean, that's the only reason somebody's going to buy that now, is to simply put that into a collection. They say, I've got a glass cabinet, so I've got that now.
Exactly,
yeah. You wouldn't lend it to anybody without a 24-hour armed security protecting it, I guess. Yeah. Not if you've invested that much into it. Worth more than my entire collection, probably, as well.
There's no way it's just no way I'd pay £450 for a game.
No, it's ridiculous, really, when you think about it. But those are the crazy times we live in at the moment. Right, so those are your 6 games. So again, recapping: Dark Souls, Resident Evil 1 on the PlayStation 1, Uncharted 2, Streets of Rage 4, Half-Life 2, and Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Those are the 6 games that you're going to be clutching onto on the desert island. Very quickly jump back to your gaming history, just to give us a brief overview of what was left on that one. You mentioned the PlayStation 2, which your experiences of that when you first got it.
So the PlayStation 2 was the first console I ever bought out of my own wages. So it's always like for someone who likes cars, their first car that they bought, for a gamer, that was the first console I bought by myself. It was a no-brainer after having the PlayStation 1. Sony were just on a roll, and it was like, this is just going to be even better. It's got the DVD player. I'm looking in the magazine of all these games coming out, like Time Splitters and all the fighting games, like the Tekken Tag and stuff. It was like, this is just absolutely amazing. And I didn't get it on because I was working, so I had to save up for it. I got it just after launch. I think the Christmas after the launch. but I was determined to pay for myself. My mum said she would have lent us the money, but I was like, no, I want to save this and I want to get this as the first console I've ever bought.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer in itself. I'm not the biggest fan of the PlayStation 2. I prefer 1 or 3. For me, that those are the best system I got more out of. I didn't have a PlayStation 2 originally, I did later on, but I'd always wanted to get hold of one. It's like the Saturn. I always wanted to get hold of the Saturn, but I was disappointed with it, and a little bit disappointed with the PlayStation 2. I'm not quite sure why it just doesn't sit so well with me.
So for me, all my favorite games, bar Tomb Raider, because I'm not going to talk about Angel of Darkness, but I suppose then you got Anniversary and Legend and Underworld and stuff later on. But it took all my favorite games like Resident Evil and Silent Hill and Metal Gear Solid, and a Spinal Tap, it just turned them up to 11. Grand Theft Auto, that started off on the PlayStation 1, but then when it came to the PlayStation 2 and went fully 3D, it's the biggest franchise in the world, Grand Theft Auto, arguably bigger than Mario and stuff like that, because when a new Grand Theft Auto game comes out, it's a world event.
It is.
The world stops when Grand Theft Auto comes out. COD, it's died off a bit. When COD used to come out, it was like COD's coming out, but now it's just, there's another COD. Grand Theft Auto doesn't happen very often. It's an event. The world stops and it breaks every record, going. And that got massively popular because of the PlayStation 2. My favorite Metal Gear Solid game is Metal Gear Solid 3 on the PlayStation 2. Silent Hill 2, my favorite horror game of all time, PlayStation 2. These are games that could never have happened on the previous generations.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, no, I mean, if he's got those great games on that system, then you can see why it's one of your favourite choices, and it was a no-brainer really. And you're right about GTA. That as soon as they come out, it's the whole world stops or something like that, doesn't it? It's we get a new one as well soon, aren't we? I think
they haven't showed anything yet, but they just tease you for years and years. The thing is, they're still making hundreds of millions of pounds a year off Grand Theft Auto 5, and it's 10 years old. Because of the online stuff. It's
been I don't know, really quite been 10 years since the last incarnation of it, but
probably about 2013. So 8
we're
years.
Not far off it. We're not far off it. Yeah.
It's coming out on the PS5 as well. And you
oh really? On the 5?
Bigger another yeah. So that'll be the third time I've bought it. Because I'm a loser.
It might go to PlayStation 6 if we get that far. I don't know.
It would surprise us.
I mean, just sticking with the PlayStation, you've obviously picked up 3, 4, and 5 since then as well, haven't you? So, have you a particular favourite out of those?
For me, like the PlayStation 3, you got Uncharted, which I was talking about, BioShock. The list is endless. The Last of Us, arguably my favorite game of all time. The Dark Souls and Demon Souls started off on there, but I'd say the PlayStation 4 is, I'm going to say it live on your channel right now, it's my favorite console of all time, and I've never said that out loud to anyone but myself.
That's a big confession.
Yeah,
big confession.
You've got the exclusive, Russ.
Thank you. That's great. We shall bank it for at least 3 weeks. We'll keep it quiet now until this goes out in 3 weeks' time. You mentioned The Last of Us there. Did you know the TV series coming out?
Yeah.
HBO, I think it is, isn't it?
I'm really nervous about it because I don't want to start going down, but like a lot of TV now for me, the direction it's going, and I'm just not keen on it. I don't really watch new TV. I don't watch new films that come out. I'd rather put an 80s, 90s film on and know what I'm getting.
That's fair.
And when like I said, The Last of Us, it could be my favorite game of all time. I could be, when we were talking about Streets of Rage 4. Oh, they've changed that. That character should be like that. I don't want to be watching it and going, well, Joel wouldn't act like that. And that's not how Ellie is in my mind, so.
Yeah. No, there's always a danger of that, isn't there? There's always a
Yeah.
danger that they'll do something and you'll think that's completely different.
It's like the new modern. It's like the modern. If you used to read a Stephen King film in the read his book in the 80s, and then you watch the film, you're like, well, that doesn't happen in the book, and that character's not like that. It's the modern version of that with video games and converting to film, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I think that's I don't think there's been many successful video games that have become films. Always been slightly cold by them.
Mm.
I'm sure they have.
The original Mortal Kombat, I enjoyed that.
Yeah,
the original, but there's not many.
I'm sure there are, but I mean, the ones I've seen, I mentioned Resident Evil earlier. Doom was a terrible one as well. Rampage was a complete waste of time.
Mm.
I mean,
there's a German director, and he used to take. So he was like an awful director. And he just did these films straight to DVD. So he did like, what's the Sega zombie shooting one?
House of the Dead.
House of the Dead. He did House of the Dead. He did Alone in the Dark. He did Blood Rain. You know, all these straight to DVD, like just awful films. But gamers like us will still buy them in the bargain book for £3.
That's it. Yeah,
it's game related.
Got the game title on it. Yeah. No, I just always think they're just. I say Rampage. I mean, yeah, the premise there is very, very limited. But then again, Disney make films out of boat rides, don't they? And you've got Pirates of the Caribbean. That's spawned 5 films so far out of a theme park ride, and there's the Jungle Ride as well, which is the new rock film that came out, which is all right. It's no Jumanji, I'll give it that.
He does a lot of jungle films, doesn't he?
He does. Welcome to the Jungle, Jumanji, 2 of them, and then Jungle Cruise it's called, isn't it? Or the Jungle Ride, I can't remember. It's all right. It's not passing the time quite. It's a bit too like Jumanji, but not quite as good.
I heard someone the other day, I think it might have even been Scott, Sega Zombie. The reason The Rock will never be a huge action star in like our eyes, you know, going from Arnie and Sly, because he does too many films like that.
Yeah.
So you'll never see him as the big Arnie, Sly, Van Damme, because he's not doing enough grown-up films.
Which was the direction he was going in to start with, I think. So he's doing the reasonably budgeted action films, and then I think he's right. He just not going in that direction anymore. He tends to do. Well, he's done things like, was that one he did in the tower block? What was it called? Skyscraper. Yeah. He does those every now and again, but he thought he could have done all those. He could have a film, every single film like that, and he'd be the bigger star than he is now. But he's a big star anyway. He just spends most of the time making Fast and the Furious films.
I've never seen one.
Have you not?
No.
Yeah, they're not overly memorable. They're very much cars. If you like cars, that's fair enough. But if you don't,
right, I can't even drive, so I'm not bothered.
Oh well, there we go then. That's fine. You mentioned a couple of the systems on your list, which we've got the Switch and the Xbox. We're talking Xbox. We're talking Xbox in general, or we're just talking.
So I got the Xbox just after the PS2, the OG Xbox.
Yeah.
So I was joining the Navy on the Sunday. I was traveling down to Plymouth. I finished work, the job I was doing on the Thursday, and I'd saved up a bit of money and I had some spare cash. There was no games out on the PS2 I wanted at that time, and the Xbox had just came out, or had been out a little bit. And this Halo, I'd just been hearing people talk about Halo, and I was like, I'm going to get the Xbox. I've got this weekend to play Halo before I go down, and I had the game on the Saturday. Like I say, I'm traveling down 9 o'clock on the Sunday morning. I was getting the train. It was like a 10-hour journey from Newcastle to Plymouth on the train, and it got to like 3:30 in the morning, and I was on the last level. Have you played the original Halo?
Yes.
So the last level, you're in the Warthog, and you're just bombing along, aren't you? And there's explosions going off around you, and you've just got that pumping music. And I'm playing it. It's the best looking game I'd ever played on a console at that point. I just had this 10-hour like action, like it was like I was playing Aliens or something, you know, real life Aliens. and I've got to get this done. I've got to get showered and get ready and get to the train station. There's explosions and there's music, and it was just like it's one of the greatest, like not just gaming memories, but memories of my life. You know, like it was a day that was going to change my life forever. Because 18 years later, I'm still doing the same job.
Yeah.
If I hadn't joined up, I wouldn't have been around the world. I wouldn't have met so many friends. Life would have been completely different. I might not have met my partner, had my kids. You know.
Yeah.
And it all started off with a couple hours beforehand, getting on that train, knowing I had to finish this game. You know, it was just like such an experience that I'll never forget.
It was a game changer, wasn't it? Because if we go back to the PlayStation when that first came out, again, Microsoft are coming in, obviously known for their PC stuff, but they're coming into the console market completely fresh. And again, there's a real skepticism about whether it's going to be successful or not. And it needed a game like Halo to push the console. It's going to be an exclusive to Xbox. And then everybody raved about it. And people were just buying Xboxes to play Halo. Whether they bought anything else after that is entirely irrelevant. Halo sold those Xboxes. Probably in the same way that Tetris sold the Game Boys years and years ago as well.
Or Sonic sold the Mega Drive in America. Because it was Altered Beast, wasn't it, before Sonic, and it wasn't until they started selling Sonic. And
I mean, if they put their eggs in the baskets and Altered Beast, it'd never taken off, would it? Really?
Exactly. But it's funny, you know. Every generation we've talked about, Nintendo's just always there, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's just always there. It never goes away, and it never will.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I mean, I love the original Xbox console. I really do. I've still got my original one from years ago, and it's. I mean, I know a lot of people prefer PlayStation 2, and some people collect the exclusives to the Xbox. But I just like the whole look of it. The fact it weighs a ton, it's got that giant big green cross on it, and the way it starts up is great as well. I just love it. I really do.
My dad probably would have rather carried the Amstrad with the monitor and the black bags than the Xbox. Probably weighed more than that.
Oh yeah, I remember I bought a second-hand one on a complete whim because I thought he's selling this for £3 without any leads or anything. He doesn't know if it works. I thought I'm going to leave it there. I had to carry it around for about an hour afterwards, and it's a bit of a weighty thing to be fair, but wouldn't regret doing that now. It's just a fantastic piece of kit. And again, I like the 360 as well. I mean, the 360 for me was probably one of the last things I wanted to get hold of. Console. I didn't get one until 2 years ago. But I've always wanted one. I wanted one at the time when I was buying a PlayStation 3. I wanted the 360 more, but we went with the PlayStation thing because we talked about Blu-rays earlier. That's why we went with it. So, and again, I like the 360. I think it's really, really good.
Going to a wrestling, right? We'll go to another wrestling thing. I don't like or could never like the Ultimate Warrior because I was a Hogan guy. When the Xbox came out, the original, as a PlayStation fan, I just looked at it as another console in the market, but it's nothing to be scared of as a PlayStation fan. It's going to do all right. But then when the 360 came out, and I knew I was going for the PS3, I couldn't like Ultimate Warrior. I couldn't like the 360 because now it was competition to my Sony. Because it had upped the game that much from the 360.
Yeah,
and I couldn't like it, and I still can't really like it because it was competition. I know I'm nearly 40 and I'm talking about sad stuff like this, but it's true. I just couldn't like it because it was competition to my Sony. You know, I know that how sad that sounds, but it's a sad fat boy.
I do agree because I get that. I used to get about certain things as well. I think when it was, I think it was when Sonic came out for the Mega Drive, and everyone was raving about it, and I thought, I hope this doesn't take off. It's a bloody hedgehog, and I don't want games going in this direction. I don't want this. I don't want it to kill the Amiga. That's what I was planning. I don't want it to kill the Amiga. And that's when Zool came out, and my intense hatred of Zool because that was designed to, yes, we can make games as good as Sonic. No, you can't. Zool's terrible. I don't care what anybody says. Zool is a terrible game.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of it.
And
it's just so floaty and like,
yeah.
yeah.
And if that was the computer stroke micro answer to what the best of the consoles could do, then it's no wonder that the Amiga sort of died out eventually, and everything else moved on from it. But yeah, I don't know about the 3. I just always wanted to own one, and as soon as I got one, I was like, yeah, great, I really like this. I like the PS3 and I like the Xbox 360. I don't have a favourite amongst them, one over the other. I think they're both great.
Again, like I was saying, it comes down to exclusives. I'd choose Uncharted. I'd choose The Last of Us. I would choose Demon's Souls over Halo, Gears, and Forza. It's just your preference, isn't it? What kind of game you like to play. The Xbox has always been more like over the top, big action style ish, like Master Chief and the guys from Gear. And like you've had more of the artistic games, I think, on the PlayStation, like Ico and Shadow of the Colossus, and I just prefer that type of game. So I haven't mentioned them yet, Shadow of the Colossus and Ico, but they're in my top 10 favorite games of all time, and they're both PlayStation 2.
Yeah, no,
just absolutely love them.
And you mentioned God of War as well earlier, didn't you? I think as well. So yeah, that'll be up there as well. I dare say. I'm just going to skip. There's anything I want to talk about is the current Nintendo console that you got.
Yeah,
because we mentioned that briefly in your vast selection of games for it already. It's about 10 times the size of mine, but it's the Nintendo Switch. It is a fantastic console, isn't it?
Yeah. For me, it's a handheld. I very, very rarely dock it. So I travel a lot, going up and down the line on the train. Obviously, I can go to sea. I think the longest I've been underwater without any contact with the outside world is 9 weeks. Not a message from home, not seeing sunlight, nothing like that. And I've took Sega Game Gears to sea, I've took Game Boys to sea, I've even took the Vita to sea. But when I played Breath of the Wild at sea in my little bunk handheld, it was like I'm finally playing a AAA game, a fully AAA game on the go. And Uncharted on the Vita was good, but it didn't feel like an Uncharted game. It felt a little bit lacking. But then when Breath of the Wild came out, I was like, this is just amazing. It just absolutely blew my mind. And I put well over 100 hours into it, and I still haven't touched the DLC yet. It's just,
really?
Yeah.
It's when people say 100 hours and there's like 300 hours still to go, or when you mentioned 300 hours in Dark Souls earlier, I'm thinking, I haven't got that many hours left in my life to play that sort of game of fitting with everything else I'm going to have to do. But I mean, yeah, it is more of a handheld. I do agree from that point there, but I just love it. I think it's Nintendo. They might not be, my favorite manufacturer or developer, but that sort of thing. They might not be my favorite, but my goodness me, I've owned pretty much every single Nintendo console there was and has been. And I said earlier, if you want to play games, that's the brand that you need just to simply do that. And I've got a small number of games, but Mario Kart 8, I absolutely love that. Brilliant game. I got it on the Wii U. It's great. The Crash Trilogy, Rayman, Legends, 3 games that I played probably more than anything else on that system. And I played Mario Maker. There's Mario Maker 2, which I think Mario game, it's all right. There's other games. I haven't even played Hollow Knight yet.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah,
it's absolutely.
I only got around to playing that one. Yeah.
That's one of the best Metroidvanias that's been around for ever. It's just absolutely amazing. Yeah, it's well, the games you mentioned, there's such variety as well on the Switch, isn't there? For me, it remains as very much of the PlayStation 2. There's whatever kind of genre you're into or kind of gaming experience you want, you can get it on the Switch. Whether it's your Metroidvanias, your kart games, your epic adventures with Zelda, your platformers, 2D or 3D. And they're generally the best in class, or thereabouts.
You're right. Yeah, I mean there's so much choice out there. I look at the games and go around the shops and I'm like, I'd like to buy more for it. I know I'd like to buy more for it, and if I had a different scenario where I could spend more time doing that, then I would do so. It's always one of my big regrets. I've say neglected it, but I haven't given it the respect it deserves. But it's Nintendo, and after the Wii U, there was that they got themselves back on an even keel with the Wii. Then after the Wii U, it's a bit of a wobble, wasn't there? So that flopped, and if you felt that this and Pokemon Go had to be a real success for them, and my goodness me, they have turned the corner for them, certainly.
Well, you say the Wii U. It was you say the Wii U to anybody outside of the gaming community, they'll probably, oh, is that just like an add-on for the Wii? They didn't market it right, did they? It was for that market that they were in with the Wii, the casual, your mum going to them picking up the Wii for you because it's in Argos or something.
Yeah,
they didn't realize it was a brand new console. I think that didn't help it a lot.
No, but I like it. I do like the Wii U, and I know some people don't. I don't mind the controller, and I think there's some pretty snazzy games for it as well. So, but I think you said it was marketed wrong, and it felt like maybe a prototype. I think the Switch is where they should have gone. Really, they should have waited and put everything into the Switch, and they could have called it U Switch, but of course that's a energy saving website. Isn't it? They probably couldn't call it that by that point, so that to change it else. But the Switch is just great. I can't praise it enough. I really can't.
It just goes to show, like you're talking about the graphics as well. It's looks wise, it's not up there with the PS4 or the Xbox. I get confused. Series X, Xbox One, because I'm not an Xbox player. I don't know which numbers are which, but. Looks wise, obviously the games, the cross-platform ones, don't look as good on the Switch, but it just goes to show it's not, like you were saying, it's not all about being the best looking game. It's
it's like some of the stuff on the Wii. It's the Call of Duty 4, for example. It's a paired, it's a scaled down version of the PS3 Xbox version, but it's still pretty good. All the Call of Duty games on the Wii, they're scaled down from the other counterparts, but they're all good games. They still retain that, so they might not look as snazzy as the other counterparts, but when you get the mechanics of it, they are really good, and that's the same with the Switch. And I think on that little screen, and even the big screen, the Switch games look fantastic.
Oh, yeah. It's but people like I've had an argument with someone about this not too long ago. Actually, it's
you have lots of arguments with people.
I'm not that bad, am I? Could
you arguments or discussions before? I don't know. But,
discussions, that's what I meant. Yeah. I'm just a bad speaker. So, because he was saying like Nintendo, well, they've always not cared about the graphics and stuff like that. And I was like, well, you think about when the Nintendo came out, that was the most powerful console. The Super Nintendo, when that came out, it was more powerful than the Mega Drive, I think, the specs wise.
Yeah.
And even the N64, that was technically more powerful in certain ways than the PlayStation and the Saturn. It wasn't until like you got and even the GameCube, like I said, that was up there with the PS2.
That's right. Yeah.
Maybe not the Xbox, that was the powerhouse of that generation. But it wasn't until the Wii where they took a backward step and went, right, we're not going to play with the big boys like Sony and Microsoft because they've got all the money. We're just going to make these innovative, really clever, fun games on our budget, and people are either going to come to where and want to play them, or they're just going to go where the money is and the big shiny graphics.
Yeah.
That's
but there are some...
Sorry.
No, go on. I'll interrupt you. Go.
Oh, and that's something really clever. I think Nintendo's done. They've said we can't play with Microsoft's money, we can't play with Sony's money, but we've got the likes of Mario and Zelda. What's the Pokemon? We've got these games. So we can still bring these out. They might not look as good as the big adventures on the other systems, but we're going to make them more fun. We're going to add different mechanics that they're not going to think of. And that's something they've done really well in the last 20, 25 years, Nintendo, for me personally.
If you look, I mean, there are some beautiful looking games on the Wii as well. If you do go, Boy and His Blob, Sin and Punishment's a good one as well. Muramasa, the Demon Blade, beautiful looking game on the Wii. Batman and Brave and the Bold, I always mentioned that's a really nice looking game. And Rayman Origins as well on the Wii, I think probably
Yeah.
the best looking game on the system. So yeah, okay, not as technically powerful or as probably sharp as the HD counterparts, but my goodness me, that it doesn't mean they couldn't bring out really nice looking games and surprise people with them. So
Mario Galaxies, they're my two favorite 3D platform. It's just absolutely so good. It's the best. Mario Galaxy, the first one, because I've not really played the second one much, is my favorite 3D platform of all time. Even over the likes of Ratchet and Clank and Jack and Dexter and whatever else, I just love it.
Yeah.
I think it's such a great game.
Yeah, and always finding ways of reinventing. You got Mario Odyssey now, haven't you? Which is the latest.
Yeah.
And Sunshine on the GameCube. We talked about Sunshine earlier. I know a lot of people don't like that game, but I thought that was because it wasn't a Mario game. I'm not a massive Mario aficionado. I don't mind the Mario games. I like 3D World on the Wii U, but Sunshine I like because it didn't feel like a proper Mario game.
Yeah.
It was completely different. So for me, I quite like that. I like Mario 64, but that in essence is still bog standard Mario. Sunshine is slightly different. That's why I like it.
But Nintendo, how they'll get one of their franchises, a big franchise, and they'll always they're not scared to take risks. Call of Duty for me every year. I stopped playing it after about Black Ops 2 and Assassin's Creed even, because every year at the same time I was buying the same game and having the same experience, just with a different character or what have you. With Zelda, every Zelda's the next one's been different. It's been a different setting, different looks wise. You're going from Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask to then Wind Waker, and then Twilight Princess. Mario, you're jumping between 2Ds and 3Ds. One, you're in Galaxy where you've got they brought in the control really well or how to pick things up. They're just not. They're always willing to push and take risks, which I think is a really admirable, part of the company. It's not just churning the same stuff out because it's got Mario on it and they know it'll sell.
But you could also argue that with Sonic games, okay, the first three are the classic sort of side on.
Yeah.
Then when they try to do something different with Sonic, it's never always worked out right. There were some good Sonic games and there were some bad Sonic games. And it was more noticeable when they did Generations, that when they reverted back to elements of 2D gameplay, that the whole package felt so much better and balanced. I've not played it, but I know a lot of people enjoy Sonic Mania.
It's brilliant. Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah. Going back to that, where if you play something like Sonic and the Black Knight, or you're playing Sonic Unleashed, they're horrible games.
It's hard to make 3D or even 2.5D. Sonic's about speed, isn't it? And once you went to 3D, it's hard to get that speed where it's I know what you're saying, but I never played any of the Sonic Heroes or Generations. I give up on it once it went 3D. To be honest, I think I played Sonic Adventure, and then I just give up on it until Sonic Mania came out.
Yeah, I mean, you always say that when Mario or Zelda strays from the usual traditional form, the game is still a good game, whereas Sonic strayed from the formula into something else, and it's taken a long time to come full circle and get him back. And he's always been more successful in traditional Sonic games and trying to take him out of the comfort zone. But that's an episode in itself, that is.
Yeah.
Right, so that's your gaming history. We've had to sort of move on from that. But absolutely fascinating, Mark. Really, some great systems in there and a lot of good memories as well, which is good. Last two games. We've always finished on the last two games on your list, and this is the game that I used to say the game put more time into, or you never play properly. I suppose we should call it the second chance game, because that's what we're really giving this game an opportunity with. And then we'll get on to your hated game at the end. But so your second chance game, is.
So I've went for Alan Wake on the 360.
Good choice.
Now I've put it in. Ash, this is a game I know for a fact I'll love if I actually. But I popped it in and tried the disc. When you as a collector, you get the game right. I've checked that. I'll come back to it. But then the backlog, it just gets like that. And it's like, you just forget about it, don't you? Yeah, exactly.
The giant pile of games behind me. Yes, there's a giant testing pile there.
The backlog is a real thing, my friend.
Yes,
and
it is.
So I put it in and I tried it, and I was like, I got it because this is my Resident Evil, Silent Hill. I know it's a bit different, but I don't know that much how different it is. It's a horror thriller, and yeah, I've put no time into it, bar 10 minutes just to see that the disc worked. And I was playing a game that came out not too long ago called Control. I don't know if you've heard of that.
I haven't, no.
So it's like it's an action adventure game where you get some really cool mechanics. You get teleportation, you get telekinesis, and the action, it's just amazing. You know, you're flying about and you're throwing things, but you've got a gun in the other hand and you're taking them out. Now, Alan Wake's completely different to that, but it's done by the same guys, and there's a lot of you find little Easter eggs to Alan Wake that just really intrigued us. I was playing Control, thinking I need to go back and play Alan Wake. And Eddie, your good mate Eddie over at Rollercore, he keeps telling me off for not playing it because you know what he's like. He's like, get that played. So I do need to go back and play it because it is a game I know I love. I'm
very lucky. You mentioned Eddie, who's a good friend of ours, Pete Fighter too. Pete's got a history of getting hold of the actual collector's edition, you know, the fake the book, and giving it to people, and not keeping a copy for himself. I think he's given me one copy of it anyway, because I had the game loose, so he said, "I've got the rest of that if you want it," because Pete doesn't. He keeps most of his games loose, so he rather than keep the boxes.
He's got his big wallet, hasn't he?
Yeah, so he said, "I'll send you that," and I think he sent Nath Retro a copy as well. So. He said the next one he sees, he's going to come up. He's going to keep for himself. It's a beautiful set, and I completely agree. Again, I've done exactly the same thing as you have. I've tested it and then put it away. But within that set, there's a book and there's a CD to go with it as well, so you can get the background to it, and then to go and play the game to get that experience. And I think from the sort of games you're playing, that's going to be right up your street.
It's just there's so many games, like you look at your shelf and you're like, why haven't I played that yet? It's like I know I'm going to love it, and then something else new and shiny, and you just forget, don't you?
That's it. And again, it's not one of these games which is particularly expensive to pick up. I think the collector sets are probably about a tenner, and if you buy just copy the game its own, it's probably a couple of quid. Most people who've played it and enjoyed it will absolutely rave about it, and I'm like you, it's probably a game I do need to sit down and play and go through properly. But it's a good choice, that, and I can see where it fits in with your sort of enjoyment of games and where your areas you particularly enjoy going, and you should do that. It's a good choice to take with you as well.
Because I was so close to picking The Witcher 3, but I was like, I've put 100 hours into that, over 100 hours, but never completed it. Because it's just it's one of those games where you go off, and I thought that can't really be a game that I haven't tried because I've put over 100 hours into it.
When you just before we get to your last game on the list, when you pick these games, were you picking them from a favourite point of view? Were you picking them from the fact that because a lot of people have been very clever about this during this series and saying, well, I've picked these games because if I'm going to be stuck on a desert island, then these are the sort of games I'll be wanting to play because of the amount of time you need to put into them. Have you gone from that? No, you just gone from the other way around.
Yeah, so I was so close to putting Skyrim on because I do love it, and I've I keep saying hundreds of hours, but I literally have. I've got all the saves up there. I can prove it to anyone who doubts this. But I feel like I don't know. I love Skyrim, but and Premier Manager 2, I put a whole summer holidays into Premier Manager 2.
Oh, you sent me a copy of that a few months ago.
Yeah.
I had that as well. Yeah,
I just loved it, but I don't know. I just pick games that just with me. I'm very much. I just go with my heart and I don't listen to my head. And I just went I'm doing this with Russ. 6 games, bang, what other? And then I just wrote them down.
Yeah.
everything with me is like what comes in my head first is what comes out my mouth. Unfortunately, sometimes, or what I choose for this.
No, everyone does it slightly differently. It's always nice to get an angle. I know some people really sort of sat down and thought about it and thought, if I'm going to be stuck out there for that long, I'm going to need to play for 100 hours, 200 hours, whatever, or I can play it through this way, then I can play it through that way, and I can play it through that way. So it's always nice to get people's expression, because you're not quite sure how long I'm going to leave you there for. Because you could be there quite some time.
Well, I'd have plenty of time to regret my decisions, then, wouldn't I?
Yeah, I should have bought The Witcher 3. Why did I pick The Witcher 3? But then you could always play your hated game, because I know it's not a game that you want to take with you, but it's there, isn't it? I suppose.
So I've picked a game that I've never played, but I hate it. Because it's the game that finally made me realize I was old, because I was too old to get into that genre. And it was like, yeah, I'm at that age now, and I've chose Fortnite. It's
right, Fortnite. First time this has come up on one of these, so
I've never played it. I've got no interest in playing it, but I know how popular. Well, I don't know if it still is. I think it's still popular, but at one point it took over the world, didn't it?
That's right.
All these daft kids doing the dance and stuff like that, and it really annoys me. I know I shouldn't. When you see these streamers, like blokes our age, playing Fortnite and doing the dance and stuff like that, and you're like, you really don't want to be in this situation, but you're doing it because you're going to get so many views and make money. Just have a word with yourself.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's when you get to a certain age, certain things pass you by. And I as soon as I read about that, heard about this hype and all about it, and I looked at it, I thought, yeah, that's. I think I'm probably maybe 15 years too old for it. It's just like that, even if I was in my 30s, or late 20s, early 30s, would I be playing Fortnite? No, I'd like be playing Call of Duty or something else, I would have thought.
Yeah.
I just don't see the appeal in it. I really don't. I don't understand why it's so popular.
No, it's like even like an older guy like our age can go back and play Mario, even though it could be classed as a kiddie game, because it's just a good game. But I think it was just because I was so old when Fortnite came out, and I wasn't at that age to get into it, and it just made me realize. I don't want to go really deep, but it made me realize how close I am to that other state. Me being too old.
How do you stand on Minecraft, which is very much a similar sort of thing?
So I don't mind Minecraft. I've played it quite a bit. Going back to my dad, that is the only game, bar World of Warcraft, my dad's played for about five years.
Really? Yeah.
And he plays it daily and puts hours into it daily.
Wow. I couldn't get on with it. The only thing I can get on with Minecraft is if I can keep digging these rather large holes. And that's about as far as I get with it before, again, I'll get a bit bored.
So I've only played it. I haven't played it like you're meant to play it. I've just did the creative mode and just built stuff like Lego, like a big Lego. I've never done it where I'm surviving. Very much like Civilization. I don't play that the way you should. I'll make them as bad as they can, and me with all the resources, and just build a world. And I just like doing that.
I might have to revisit Minecraft, because I found them on both PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 dirt cheap. So I played on the PlayStation 3. I played for about an hour and a half, and I thought, I ain't sure what I'm going to be doing here. I ain't really enjoyed it, so I might go back and do it. But Fortnite, I just can't see me ever playing that. I don't mind watching people when Al was playing it last year and Carl's Room 70. It was fun to watch them play because they were absolutely terrible at it, but that's because they was playing it. But I mean, I'm not going to sit down and watch anybody else's Fortnite video.
Yeah, I'd watch them guys because they're my friends, and we watched Al last night playing Fall Guys, didn't we? And the game is not very. He's terrible.
Best thing on television, mate. Best thing on television.
Yeah. One of the best things that's ever, like one of the funniest things. Can you remember a couple of months ago, what's her name? Miss Cutex?
Oh, yes, yeah. Cuteek, yeah.
Yeah, Cuteek, sorry. So we just randomly wearing a Scouser stream who lives in like Cyprus or something like that, and we were just talking, doing Alan Partridge quotes, weren't we? It was like the most surreal thing ever.
That was absolutely brilliant. And what she was playing, was it Fall Guys? Wanted she was playing.
I think she was playing Fall Guys, yeah.
Yeah. Because I immediately got attracted with Fall Guys. So I thought, Fall Guys, great. Because I'd watched Al play a couple. I thought this is brilliant, and I found her stream. And yeah. And then talk about you being everywhere. I popped in there, and I think either you were there before I got there, or just arrived after I did.
I think I arrived just after you did, and I saw you. Hello. It was like the weirdest place to meet you.
Yeah, it was. It was a Sunday afternoon about 4:00 as well. It was a stupid time because I just finished doing some video recording. I went back downstairs and I thought I'll just have a quick check of messages. I thought, someone's playing Fall Guys here, so I'll watch it. And then all of a sudden you turned up as well. but yeah, Alan Partridge quotes all afternoon, a couple of hours in the afternoon.
Driving to Dundee and Toblerone and stuff.
That's it. Not my words. The words of Shaking Stevens. Oh dear. But yes, I completely agree with Fort. But I probably, if I was there, I'd play it. I would have to play it to just see what it was like. I mean, it might, you may worryingly play it and decide it's actually rather good. But I've seen people play it. I've seen this whole business about building. You land somewhere and start building a fort or something, and I'm thinking, yeah, I don't know. It's shit, isn't it? It's one of these. Yeah, I agree. You're sort of sitting there thinking, this is passing me by. Am I getting too old for this shit? And to sort of say, but I don't know. You just go, this is not my sort of thing at all. Can I ever get into something like this? No, never. Yeah.
No.
Right. Well, that brings us to the end. Then we're done. What a fantastic list of stuff there. There was. I wasn't quite sure what to expect really when we talked about your list earlier and waiting for you to send it through. And I thought I think you've got the balance about right. And a lot of games here I would have expected to see, and a couple I didn't expect to see as well, which is always good. You mentioned some that didn't get on the list as well, which is always nice because it's nice to know what people, when they're deciding what to bring with them, they decide to leave something out because I'm going to take someone else instead. So you mentioned some games there that you would have taken, which I would expect to see on there anyway. So that's all good, really.
It's like Sophie's choice, isn't it? You know, it's like what do you choose? You turn into what's it called? Glenn? Not Glenn. I can't remember her name. Out of Glenn Close, not Glenn Close.
Oh, yeah, not fact. Oh, Meryl Streep.
Meryl Streep.
Sophie's choice. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, Sophie's choice.
Was it Hobson's choice? Isn't it? Sophie's. They say it's Hobson. I don't know. I can't remember.
It was Sophie's choice where she had to choose between her two kids, didn't she?
Sophie, I can't remember now. I don't know.
It was like setting the war and she had to choose between her two kids or something.
Yes, it was, wasn't it?
Mm.
I get that one confused with the French Lieutenant's Woman. I don't know why. They're completely different films. I thought you might have got confused with Kramer versus Kramer for a second there.
That's a brilliant film, that.
Dustin Hoffman.
I love that.
Actually, she's in that as well, isn't she?
Yeah, because she leaves him, doesn't she? There's that a really emotional bit, you know, like when his kid falls off the play set and he cuts his head open, and Dustin Hoffman's running with him to the hospital. It's like you can see in Dustin Hoffman that's the first time he felt, I'm a dad now, and this is. It was just it's really touching.
Yeah, there we go. We could put you on this and do films, couldn't we? I suppose that might be a spin-off actually. Desert Island Films.
That'd be a good one.
That would be a good one. I'm going to add that to the possibly to-do list at some point. It should be Desert Island Films.
First guy you need to get on is Pedro.
Oh man, the films he'll pick though. I mean, goodness me, be all sorts in there.
Yeah, he's some bloke, Pedro.
He is certainly. I've met Pedro once, and again, it's like we said right at the very start. Somebody you bump into, and we spent about an hour and a half, 2 hours just talking about stuff, wasn't so much games, just talking about stuff. It was really, really good. I recognised him. I recognised his voice straight away. I didn't recognise him, but I recognised his voice. And he then spent the next 30 seconds trying to convince me that he wasn't who I thought he was. And they said, "No, I'm pulling your leg." I said, "No, yeah, I know you're pulling my leg. I recognise the voice. I know it's not. You're not." So, and that was the time he was doing the old school stuff with the mask on. So, I hadn't seen his face before.
I've never seen any of that.
Yeah. Because I just recognised the voice, and I was like, because he was with Tootie and he was with Fob, because they were selling at the same event, and Pedro was there, and I thought, I know who you are. And he spent the next 30 seconds trying to convince me that he wasn't who I thought he was. But there we go. Mark, it's been an absolute delight having you on, mate. I've really enjoyed this, and I think we've achieved what we said we are going to do at the start. Two blokes sitting and talking for hours on end about stuff, and we've done a few tangents as well, which is always good.
It is, yeah. I've really, really enjoyed it. It's I never get nervous or any, but you're always a bit apprehensive, aren't you? Like, am I going to run out of things to say? Am I going to get on with Russ and like real life type thing, not just the comments? But honest, it's been absolutely brilliant. And I didn't realize it's been over 3 hours there. It's just, you can always tell it's good when it flies over.
Yeah. I
try to tell my missus that, but she doesn't believe us.
The two most common things people say is, I was always worried I was going to run out of things to say, and that's never felt like 3 hours. Which is also what your missus says as well. So that's
yeah, it is.
But no, it's great when it goes like that. And like I said, these things go for 3 hours anyway, whether we try not to stop them or not. But no, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. I've really enjoyed doing this. I'm thrilled you agreed to do it. And if we come up with any ideas about sticking on a desert island or something else, I'll definitely run it past you. But I think this is probably what's the word? Achieve what we wanted to do and we thought would have happened anyway. So I'm pleased about that. And I know that when at one point in the future, when we do actually get down to sit down and meet each other, we'll probably talk for another 3 hours about stuff easily. So,
oh, definitely.
Yeah. And thank you for giving up your time for doing this as well. I know it's been.
Honestly, it's been an absolute pleasure. I've really enjoyed myself. Thank you, Russ.
No, that's no problem at all, mate. Right, well, I shall sign off now and say once again, if you have enjoyed listening to Mark talking about his games and you're not aware of his channel, link in the description below. Do go across and show him some support. If you have enjoyed listening to this, as I said, other episodes are in the archives. And there'll be another episode along in a week's time. Don't forget to please like, subscribe, comment, and tick that notification bell if it still works for when other videos go up on this channel. But until then, Mark, once again, thank you very much indeed. And we will speak to you again very soon, I'm sure. In the meantime, this is the Retro Bear saying thank you very much for giving it your time. Do take care, and we'll talk to you again very soon. It's bye for now.